Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's workshop. We are starting our summer series where we're going to be building three different apps. Give us a thumbs up in the chat if you can see and hear us clearly. We just want to make sure that we're not facing any technical difficulties.
Okay, great. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Hello. Oh yeah,
Roger,
I'm seeing
Roger.
some thumbs up.
Awesome.
Okay, nice.
Awesome.
Cool. Great. Well, today
Thank you, Toronto.
we're going to start out our summer series by building our first app with JavaScript and Node.js. We're going to be using React as well. And so it'll be very beginner friendly, and we're just going to start with the basics and build you up from there. So a little introduction. This is our developer advocates team. I am Ryan Welford. I'm joined with by David Gilardi. Hello, David.
Hello,
And
everybody.
Cedric Lundven. Hello, Cedric.
Hello, everybody. Super happy to be with you for another workshop, another week. And you know what? It's not only me, Ryan, and David on screen. We also have the full advocacy team from DataStax there for you today, answering your question in the live. So that would be a great session all about interactivity. Let's get rolling.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping right off the bat, just to get you introduced to some of the tools that we'll be using. So we are streaming on YouTube and Twitch. We monitor the YouTube chat mostly for questions. So if you're watching on Twitch, we're not very active in that chat. So if you want to ask some questions, you can go to YouTube chat, or we also have our Discord that we have a large community. I think over 13,000 people now. And
Wow.
we are also monitoring that chat as well for questions. And that's a good place to ask some long-term questions as well. We can continue helping you outside of the workshop times. Menti.com is a tool that we're going to be using for our game today. We are going to do a quiz at the end, and you have an opportunity to win some swag. And the quiz is a lot of fun. You get a lot of points and answer some questions about the workshop. Some of the tools that we'll be using, we have our GitHub repo that hosts all of our content, and we'll be working through that. It's kind of designed to be self-service as well as facilitated by our workshop. So we'll be dropping that link in the chat soon. And we are also going to be using a cloud IDE called Gitpod, and that's going to be allow us to edit the code directly in our browsers without having to install any IDEs if you don't have any. And it integrates really tightly with GitHub. So it's really nice to use, and that's a tool we'll be using, and we'll walk you through how to get that set up. We are going to be using AstraDB as our database today, and it comes with some APIs as well with Stargate. This is our NoSQL database that we'll be using throughout our summer series for all of our apps, and we'll walk you through how to set that account up, and it'll be ready for you for all three workshops if you're joining us for all of the series. But it is a managed Cassandra instance in the cloud, which is a fantastic NoSQL database, and we're really excited to have you use it. So I am going to go ahead and hand it off to Cedric, who is going to talk us through how the summer series is going to work.
Yeah, so let's go quickly because we do have a lot of technical stuff to cover. So we are starting a journey for 3 weeks, 3 workshops. You can run each workshop as a standalone session, but that will be a progression in between now and in 3 weeks, more and more advanced stuff. So today is really beginner. So it's a live workshop. As Ryan stated, you can ask questions. We will play games together, and you will do hands-on with nothing to install. Okay, that's being said. Second, after the workshop, we will ask you to do some homeworks. If you want to do the homework, it will simply complete all the steps that we did today in front of you. It's explained step by step. Do not worry, it's really easy. And to submit the homework, it will be on GitHub. Super easy. So why would you do the homework? Well, when you do the homework, we will grant you some badges. So there is no certificate to attend the session. But if you do the workshop, we will give you a badge, and you can brag with those badges on LinkedIn. After 3 weeks, if you get the 3 badges, you get the golden badge stating that you have completed the series. Congratulations. And then for anybody that have completed the series, really, we will ship you some real swag to your location. Okay, so the stickers of your badge and more swag. So yeah, stay with us with the 3 weeks, do the homework, and you will get this swag shipped to you. That's cool, right? The only thing you have to do is learn with us in 3 weeks. And guess what? I even have a surprise for you. So now you will be very excited. Well, we are also starting a game. Okay, this is the URL. We will provide you the URL again at the end. It's a Google form. To enter the game, you need to complete at least one homework, get one badge, and then you feel if you have multiple badges, that's more chance for you to win. And you will see in the form that we can ask you to follow the YouTube channel, to do the homework with us, and also eventually to write a blog post about what you learn, what you like, and even doing your own sample app. And the more things you do, the more points you get. And beginning of August, we will deliver three Amazon gift cards to 3 among you at the audience. Not for the best submission, but randomly, based on how many points you get, you have that many chance to win. So everybody can participate, even really beginner. The more you do, the better are your chance. So good luck, everybody. We will share this link again very soon to you. And with that, I think enough with the housekeeping and introduction. Let's go to the technical stuff. What do you think, Guy?
Yeah, let's
do it. Let's do it. I do
Exciting.
see some questions, but how long is our session today, Cedric?
So the session will be 2 hours to do the hands-on and demo. We will do a lot of demo in front of you, but we will stay a 3 hours live with you to answer your question and redo the homeworks, because maybe we will go too fast. So overall, it will be 3 hours live with you, but the full content will be covered in the first 2 hours. Okay? So in these 2 hours, this is what we will cover. Application 101, what is an application? Really start from the beginning, from scratch. Presentation layer, data tier databases, application layer, and then we will do all the giveaways and all the nice stuff we will give you even today. Okay, so application 101, really for the beginner. What is an application? What is the first thing you might think about when I told you about applications? Mobile apps, of course. This is what we use every day, multiple times a day. We spend way too many hours in front of our phone. Or application that you will run on your laptop, desktop application. Okay, but if you look at those applications, you can do some strengths, weakness, opportunities thread diagram. This is what we call a SWOT. So the strength, because it's native installed on your hardware, it will be the most performant, and you can have the extended features of what the mobile can offer or the laptop can offer. So it seems great, but there are a lot of weakness as well. As a developer, you need to learn how to develop in one device or another, one framework or another, and also, it can be cumbersome for a user to install your app. Still, there are some opportunities like better usage, smooth integration. There are also some threats, security. If you ask a user to install an app, could be a Trojan horse, a keylogger, stuff like that. So for today, the application we will talk about and discuss about are the web application development or web app. So why would you do a web application? Well, the idea is to have the same code that you can use and invoke from multiple devices, laptop, mobile, tablet. It's responsive, so the UI will adapt based on the device you are using, but to be honest, you will interact with the same progression layer. So how does it work? You are working on a mobile, like, for instance, watching at YouTube. You are on one of your brother, either on mobile or on the web. Some application, I don't know if you're aware, but some applications are fully web, even if you need to install them. Like Twitch, for instance. I don't know if you realize that when you install Twitch, it's exactly the same as the website. This is called progressive application. It's a new way of develop mobile app, and it's mostly a web view with extended features. It's the best of the two worlds. It's coming. So the client, that, all browser-based. Now, what about the presentation tier, the front end? It's a web server with mainly three technology, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that I will cover right after that. These web server need something to interact with. This is what we call a backend, exposing some service, APIs, microservice, you might have heard the word. And finally, you need somewhere to store the data if your application is stateful, have a state. So it could be database, file system, external storage, or even third-party tools, like document-oriented software. So this is the overall architecture of the web application development. And guess what? We will cover all of them today in the 2 hours. So no time to waste. Let's dig into frontier presentation layer. So there, remember, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Today is back to basics. So let's take a little bit about those 3 things. First, HTML. So to be honest, anything that is on the web view, are real HTML. Hypertext markup language. This is really the language of the web. Your web browser will read this markup and will render this markup as your user interface. So it's an XML, as you can see on the screen, but it's not strongly validated. Now you can have not a really well formatted XML. It will still work until you specially validated that I need XHTML and unforced validation. So you know what it looks like. It's an XML-based markup. And there, on an HTML file, extension .html or .htm, you will define what your web UI should look like. So the part, so the body, the heads, maybe you can see that. And in the body, you will put some structures. What is a paragraph? What is a link? What is an image? What is a table? And a subdivision is really what is the most important, to be honest, in the front-end world. Division, this is where you will define area of your screen. So today, and I think we did not talk about that yet, we will build together a to-do app. And if I told you to build a to-do app only with HTML, yes, you could. And actually, this is what I did in CodePen. So you can, if you want, go to codepen.io/datastacksdevs. And you will see that a first pen that I created, it's the to-do list, but only using HTML. So here I do have the tag HTML, some head to describe the metadata of my page, body, where I do have the structures, and here I do have one div. Okay. In the div, I do have some text. I do have a form. This is where you see the input. I can add another input that could be input type button, and you will immediately realize that as soon as I change something, it will be shown on here below. And here I do have a button. So the browser will render in real time this HTML format with form, div, and list. Okay, good enough. Now, if you want to add some styling in your code, you can add the style attribute on the tag div, or any tag. You can just add style. And look at that. So as of now, the border is blue. I can change the border in red. and it will be re-rendered, and now the border is red. And any piece of the data could be edited to say, hey, now maybe this guy should have the color red. Okay, and let me do the proper syntax, style color red, and that guy should be now in red. Maybe, not sure what I miss. Maybe I should have a span, but never mind. You got the ID. Change something here, and it will be reflected here. Okay. But it can be pretty, annoying to provide the style everywhere. It will have a very long HTML. So to avoid doing that, the second item that you want to learn is CSS, Cascade Style Sheets. This is how you will style your web page. Instead of creating in each tag, I want this area in blue, I want a line, I want this margin or the background. You will do it once, provide a name, and now each time you would like to apply this style, you will say, hey, div class is, and provide the name of the CSS like that. It's a way to mutualize all the styling. Okay. If you provide HTML tag like body, it will be applied on the body and you don't have to do anything. If you are using a dedicated name, this is what we, so the name could be either dot something or hash something. It will be either a style that will be reused, a class, or a unique style if you use the ID. And you can mix all these classes with something called a selectors. So hey semicolon visited means that that should be applied on a link only when the user have clicked on this link, simply put. CSS is also the framework that brings the responsive, because if you put the screen in big or the screen is small, CSS will be able to detect, and there are some dedicated tags like media to hide or change part of the screen based on the resolution of the screen. To be honest, it is how the responsive is done. Okay. CSS is pretty powerful, but can be extended. Maybe you want to have a dedicated color of your own, and you want that multiple classes use the same color. So instead of copy pasting the color in every class, what you want to do is just define a variables and apply this color everywhere. But CSS by default does not allow to use variables. To extend that behavior, you can use preprocessors, preprocessing tools like Sass or less. And here you can see some sample, Sass and less. With CSS, you can also do some animation and do some moving parts if you wish to. We provide you links in the slide, the exercises, everything is available to you on GitHub, and the link is provided in the YouTube description. Keep moving. So it was our HTML to-do list. Hey, what if I just add one spreadsheet to this to-do list? This is what I do have my sample code 2 on CodePen/data/dev. So here you can see it's exactly the same HTML. But I added a CSS just to provide some decoration on each of my div. So here I do have my input and task 1, 2, 3, which now are still same, task 1, 2, 3. But look at that, the CSS can do some transformation at runtime. If I hover the link, see, I do have click to complete overlay. And if I click, we can do some other stuff. So that's CSS, providing some style of an HTML. Okay, what's next? The next piece of the trio for front-end is JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language, and I need to admit that it's probably the most successful and the most known programming language now. maybe with Python. But you know, I'm old, I'm a Java guy, I love Java. I would love to stick to Java all day long, but hey, that's the future, so I will need to cope with that. Okay, so the JavaScript will work with your HTML as well, but JavaScript will see the HTML as a document object model, DOM. You will still see tags, but also properties, attributes, and also detect events. If you click somewhere, if you put your mouse over a div, if you do some user action, click, JavaScript will get an event, and based on the event, you can react and edit at runtime the HTML. So, but JavaScript is way bigger than that. So now, if I go back to my to-do list and I now add a third layer, which is the JavaScript, okay, I still have the same HTML, I still have the same CSS, but now I define some variables, const. Hey, I would like the list over here to be one variable. I would like my form to be one variable. And I would like the items to be just item over here. And now, if I detect the submit event coming from the form, stating that you type enter after entering a value, well, I will update the HTML of your page. And so now, if you look at that, I do have a working to-do list, because if I use, sample 1, it's okay, sample 2, it's okay, because I append to my HTML this new row, item of the list. That's to add item. But same, if I click on one of the item, I can detect this event and do some computation. If I check something, I click on something, and it was not checked, I will change the class, the CSS, the attribute checked. It's a radio button here. And if I change the checked status, then CSS know that, oh, now I need to change the style from the star to the checkbox. Okay. And if I click and it's already checked, I will update the HTML to remove it. And see, if I click, it's done. If I click, it's delete. If I click, it's done. If I click, it's delete. And I did not use any framework. I didn't use any node or something like we talk about. It's really with bare, sample JavaScript, not even using jQuery or stuff. No framework. You can build your app. So we are pretty happy about it, right? Just by document, get element by ID, .inner HTML, we can change the content of our page. We can listen of the event of the user. This is what we call client-side JavaScript. So we're happy. We know JavaScript. Well, this is what I think. This is what I think. But just client-side JavaScript, it's not enough. You need a full stack of tools to make the application more complex and easy to use. And this is what the frameworks will allow you to do. Frameworks at the HTML, CSS part. Don't reinvent the wheel. There are some pretty famous framework. The most famous is, of course, Twitter Bootstrap, to build some user interface, reusing some style, reusing some division, but also reusing some JavaScript. Okay. So almost there, and then we can do stuff and show you real stuff. So what I did right now is just showing static code, no runtime. But hey, Node.js is a JavaScript runtime that will execute the JavaScript. and provide endpoints to be contacted to. It's light, scalable, open source, and there you can now generate dynamic page content, and you can start interacting with the data. I see the question quickly on the chat. What was before storage over here? So storage is a class to use the storage in my browser, what we call the local storage. Just to have a stateful application, because if I refresh that, I still get my default task 1, task 2, task 3. And what you need is really a backend to be able to save that state and not using storage. While Node is an application server to help you build that application that you need. So Node is the runtime, okay? And when you build an application with Node, you get some extra tools. So npm, the Node package manager, is the command line that will download all the libraries. Remember, don't reinvent the wheel, use libraries and framework. npm will make you download and use existing libraries, and will also help you to interact with your application. Start, stop, deploy, build your application will be done through npm. We will see that with Ryan. npm run something. And in the Node stack, you also have a Node package runner. So pre-build task. So here I just put a screenshot of npx co say hello, and that stuff will just display in the output a co which say hello. So the guy who invented that is just a genius, but that gives you the idea. npx is what we will use to start creating a real app, because it will do stuff for us. So npx to execute and run something, npm Node package manager. And finally, that will be my last slide about the frameworks and the ecosystem at the front-end side, and it's React. So I told you in the Node.js world, we reuse some frameworks. When it comes to front-end advanced user interface, 3 big frameworks lead the way: React, Vue, and Angular. So today we will focus on the most famous, and it is React.js. So JavaScript library to build some user interface, and with already pre-built and ready to go user interface component, but you will also build your own component, no later than today. Okay, so last slide, and I will hand over to Ryan. If you see the overall architecture of the web architecture, here we will focus on the presentation tier, the front end. I already told you that we do have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but we will have a runtime Node.js, and we will build the app using React. And what is this guy, Gitpod? We told you we do not want you to install anything today. And to use that JavaScript stack, you need IDE, so integrated development environment, like VS Code or any IDE to implement JavaScript. Guess what? Gitpod is a cloud-based, web-based IDE. And if you know VS Code, you won't be surprised. It's exactly VS Code available for you for free in the cloud. And with that, I think I already talked too much, and now it's time to show more code.
All right. Now it's my turn. We're going to do a demo here. So this is something that we'll have you guys do in the homework. But for now, I just want you guys to follow along and watch so that we can kind of get through it quickly and you can absorb it. And we'll run through it again, maybe in the Q&A section if you guys have more questions. But for now, we're just going to do a quick demo on how to create your first basic app in React using the Create React App boilerplate. So I'm going to move over here. So this is, I'm just working locally right now, but you can do all of this in Gitpod as well. You just need a kind of a local install. So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to use that npm runner that Cedric talked about, npx, and we're going to use the create React app library. And then we need to give our new app a name. So we're going to do my app. And this will...
Now, something real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan, if you don't mind. Let me just jump in. Something real quick. Everything that Ryan is doing, right? We're going to demo it now. But then as part of the homework, you'll have this to do for yourself in the homework.
Yeah.
Right. So don't worry about trying to do this at the moment or anything like that. We'll just follow with Ryan, and then we'll see you with the homework with this. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't feel like you have to keep up. If you just want to sit back and watch, you can. If you want to try and follow along, that's definitely your choice. But there's quite a bit to get through, so we want to make sure that we have everyone's attention. So what npx create React app is doing is it's downloading a few basic dependencies that React will use to be able to create the basic app, and it creates some starting files like our entry point, our index file, and our initial component. And when it's done, we'll actually be able to right away start the app as a very simple kind of splash screen. And we'll show that off. Okay, so when it's done installing, I just have to change the directory to my app that I've created, which is right here. And we can drop this down and see all of the files that it adds right here. So this is kind of our starting point. And we can go ahead and right away type npm start, and this is going to start up our app, and it should show up over here. So this is running a local server. There we go. So this is what you start out with when you use Create React App. It's just a basic splash screen with the React logo, and it gives you a little bit of instructions. You can edit source/app.js and save and to reload. So actually, we can go ahead and make changes to app.js, and it will automatically update in the browser. We don't have to restart the server or anything like that. It will dynamically change as we make changes. So we're going to do just a quick change here. I'm going to get rid of this link, and I'm going to edit this text here. So the link block, we can just get rid of that. And if I just change this text, just do the classic hello world, and I save it, you'll see that it updates automatically right away. This is really useful for developing your app and being able to see your changes right away and make adjustments and changes as you need. So we've removed some unnecessary links, changed the text, and it updates right away. So this is the kind of main component of our app, right? App.js. This is what has provided us as the entry point to our app. And technically, this is already a component. One of the motifs of React is that everything is a component, and you break things down into smaller and smaller components so that you have reusability and dynamic content. So let's go ahead and create our own component. So I'm just going to create a new folder here, call it components. Got to stay organized. It's important. And a new file. And we're going to call this. So the app that we're going to be building today is a to-do app, right? So we're going to have a to-do list. So I'm going to make our first basic component a list component, right? So list.js is what I'm going to call it. And in here, we need to do a few things. We need to import React from React. This is our basic React library that we have to import to be able to use it. And then we make our component. And a component is basically just a function, right? And we're going to name it list, and we're going to return something. And the return in React is what is going to be rendered to the DOM. That's what Cedric was talking about, that dynamic page. So this is what is actually going to be rendered to our page, right? And then we have to export this this component so that we can use it in other places. We can import this into our app component and use it. So what should we render? Yep, lost my mouse there. Well, let's think about it a little bit. We're going to have a list of items that we want to display. So the first thing that we should do is maybe define an array of items of text that we're going to display, and it's going to be a to-do list, right? So let's make a quick to-do list. So I'm going to define an array. It's always important to start your to-do list with easy things, right? So we're going to get milk. That's an easy thing to do. Then you got to work your way up. We're going to buy Amazon, right? That's a company. So
Just that.
Yep, we're just going to buy Amazon. I mean, you gotta make sure that you're always moving forward. And then, you have to save the hardest for last. So we're going to take over the world at the end. So this is our to-do list, right? We have to get milk, then buy Amazon, and then we have to take over the world, which I think is pretty reasonable.
Those to-dos are so much better than my to-dos, man. Jeez.
You got to be ambitious. Okay,
Jeez.
so we're going to take this array and we're going to render it out. So I'm going to take this array and map it. And if you're not familiar with map, I'll do a brief overview. We're going to map each item in the array to a paragraph block. And this is our HTML, right, that Cedric showed off. This is our paragraph tag. And we're just going to import the item. You can just print the item there. So the map function is a built-in function for arrays. It just takes each item as in the array and does something with it. So I'm naming, the variable item is going to reference whatever position in the array it's talking to, and then I'm just going to take that variable and I'm going to put it in here into the paragraph tag, and I need to put these brackets around it in React to say I'm using this as a variable. I'm not using the word item, right? All right. So this is our first component, our list component. We define this array. We're gonna map this array to this paragraph tag, and it's gonna list each item in a paragraph tag, right? So let's go ahead and save this. But now we actually have to use it, right? We still have our page over here. It's not doing anything. It didn't change because we need to change our app.js. And the first thing we need to do is import our new component. So if I import list from, and then I have to navigate to our component. So it's in the components directory and then list. So now I've imported this component, and I can actually replace our hello world with our list component, just like that. This is how you use a component. It looks very much like HTML. This is JSX, I believe, is what it's called.
JSX, yep.
Yep. And so this is going to import our list component and display it right here. And so if I save this, you'll see that our list, our to-do list, get milk, buy Amazon, take over the world, automatically gets updated on our page. So that is your first component. But this isn't very dynamic, right? This is still a static, we've predefined the to-dos, and every time we use this list component, it's going to be those exact to-dos, right? So we're going to make it a little bit more dynamic by using what are called props. And props is short for properties, and it's something that we can use in our components to make them a little bit more reusable and dynamic. So the first thing that we do, before I move on, I might be moving a little fast, I know. If there's any quick questions. I haven't really been following the chat.
Yeah, just quick question about arrow function. So what, why did you arrow function, and what does map do?
Okay, yeah, I'll do a quick overview of map again. So map is a built-in function for arrays in JavaScript. So this is just, traditional JavaScript, not special to React at all. And all it does is it iterates through the array, right? So we have these 3 items in our array. And it iterates through each item, and it does something to it, right? And we're telling it what to do with each item with this arrow function. right? So this arrow function is taking a variable that I'm calling item, and it's going to do this to it, which is basically just wrap it in the paragraph tag and print it. Right?
Yes. So in Java, it's called a lambda function. I will play the boring Java guy multiple times today.
In Java, it's called a lambda function?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I think it can also be called a closure or a mixin at some point.
Okay. So that's all the map does, is instead of doing a for loop and saying, as long as we're less than the length of the array, do this thing. It's just a much easier way to just use the built-in function. And the arrow function is basically just, defining what we're doing to that stuff. Hopefully that's a good explanation. All right, so we are going to use some props, which are properties. So first I need to tell our component that it should be expecting some props, which we put props in the parens here as parameters. And then I'm going to remove our array here and change this const a little bit. Oops. To this. And what this is doing is it's declaring a const, and it's going to be looking for a property called item list. So we're going to include some props with, whenever we call this function, we're going to include props with it. And this is going to look for a prop called item list. And then it's going to use the item list just like normal. But if we save this right away, we're going to get an error over here. It's going to say, can't read property of map of undefined because we have not defined our prop yet. So in app.js, we're going to add our item list prop right here. So this is how we include properties with our components, is when we call it, we're going to include a variable equals, and we use these brackets to define what that variable is. And so when our component is looking for item list, it's looking for this to be defined. And anytime that we call our list component, every time we use it, we can provide a new property. So if I save this, we're going to see our list right here, right? But I can actually reuse our list component, give it a new property, and well, we failed to take over the world, so we're going to go back to basics and just get some bread and get some eggs, right?
Hey, so Ryan, I got a question for you.
Yep.
It's one that I see coming up a lot, and I figured we should address it. So why both index.js and app.js? What's that about?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so index.js is the entry point to the whole site, basically. This is starting up the virtual DOM, and then it's just rendering our first component, app.js, that we're importing here. And I believe, let's see if I can find it. So index.html is kind of the page, the HTML page that we're using, and it should be importing the index.js. Maybe I'm mistaken there. In any case, index.js is really just the, here it is. So document.get element by ID root. So in our indexed HTML, we have all of our header information, and then we have our body, and then we have this div root. And so our index.js is basically injecting our virtual DOM into this element. and then importing our app component and rendering it. Hopefully that makes a little more sense. It's just typically I've always left index.js alone. Maybe remove the report web vitals if you don't need the performance stuff. And then make all your changes starting with app.js. It also imports your CSS, your index.css file. So if you need to do the stylings and stuff, this is where you would do it. But that's the main difference. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. So as you can see, I'm actually gonna move Cedric's head a little bit. It's in the
What?
way.
What?
It's exploding. It's
Why?
exploding.
Yeah. So I've
Get
used.
bread. I can get the bread if you want.
Yes, please.
Oh,
French,
now I
French
can
bread
get
is
the
the
extra as
best.
well.
Okay.
Yeah, French bread is it's the best. Yeah, no doubt.
So I'm reusing our component again, but I'm giving it a new array, a new list of items, and it prints them just fine, right? So now this component is reusable, and I'm not hard coding the list of items directly into the component, which is definitely the way to go. All right. So now our component is dynamic. All we need to do is get a list of items as an array, and we can use our component to list these items out. But we can go deeper because this list is actually can be broken up into smaller subcomponents by creating a new component for our items. So let's do that. You'll figure out real quickly that React is basically components all the way down. It's pretty fun.
Components all the way down, man. Components forever, man.
So I'm going to create this new component item. I'm just going to paste this code in here. And this is super simple, right? We're going to use properties again. It's going to be looking for a prop called item, and it's just going to wrap that item in a paragraph tag and print it out. Super simple. Almost... you could almost ask yourself why we're doing this, but I'll show you why. But then we need to import our item component from... Come on, if I can type. From item. And then I'm just going to replace this with our item and give our prop value like that. So I'm using our component item. I'm mapping each of the entries to our array to this property called item. And here's our array index. So item, item, item. So now I can save that and nothing has changed, right? Because we basically have just broken it up into smaller subcomponents. But now this item component can be customized, more easily customized on the kind of granular level, right? So one of the things that we can do with this item, and this is going to be pasting a lot of code, but we can use this code to create some interactivity with our items. So if I just go ahead and save this, when I hover over each of these items, oh, did not change. There we go. When I hover over it, the background changes, right? So now we, have a kind of a hover effect. And all I'm doing is, using our on mouse over and on mouse out functions. And I'm defining functions called handle mouse over and handle mouse out to set the background whenever those things happen, whenever those events happen.
Oh, can I have a red circle in front of me as well if you put the mouse over me?
Yeah,
No,
if you were
part
part of
of
the
the
website,
page.
yeah. Oh, actually, hold on. That's actually a fun idea. Here we go.
No, that's not working.
We're gonna put Cedric on the logo. All right, so
Oh, there you go. There you go. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Now I will hypnotize everybody. Use React.
That's great.
Use React. Use React.
so now we have a little bit of interactivity. Now we know, what we're hovering over. Something else that we can do is add some input. So this is going to be a to-do list eventually, right? So if I, oops, Paste this code. So now we are adding, instead of just a paragraph tag, we're using a div, and then we're adding an input of a checkbox, input style type checkbox. And then our label is our item name. And then when we have our on change, so whenever the checkbox is changed, we're going to set is checked, which is how we save the state of whether it's checked or not. So now, if we save this, now we have checkboxes in front of our, oh, I got to move Cedric. Now we have checkboxes in front of each of our items.
Oh, okay.
And we can check it. And, oh, we didn't take over the world, but I'll check it anyway. So now we have some more interactivity with our components, and we have more granular control over each item, and we can do a lot of really cool things. So that's your basic component structure, how to make your basic components, how to organize them, trying to break it down into the smallest subcomponents that you can. You could even have, these checkboxes themselves be components so that you can style those components and do some cool things with them as well. But that is kind of the very basic how-to for React. So let's see if there's any questions.
We got a question about the states. I don't know how much you want to go that road through states.
Yeah, so let's see. I'll make this window a little bit bigger. So I'll briefly talk about state. I'm gonna move Cedric again. So I did kind of copy this code in without explaining it. So there is this is called a hook. So we're using this hook use state, and basically this is a way to save save some information about our components and what it's doing. So I'm using this to determine if a checkbox is checked or not. So the way this is used is I'm defining a const, I'm giving it a name, is checked, and then using the hook, I'm giving, oops, I'm moving stuff around. I'm defining the name of a function, of a setter function, basically. So this is called set is checked, and basically if I call this function and give it a Boolean value, right, like I'm doing right here, it's going to change the value of our state variable to the value that I give it. And then I'm using the useState hook, and I'm giving it a default value. So it's going to start out false, meaning it's not checked. And then if I want to check it, I can set is checked to true, and that will change the value of this state variable to true. And then the input has a variable checked that determines whether it's the checked variant of the checkbox or the unchecked variant of the checkbox. And I'm just mapping it to the state. So whether it's true or false, it will update appropriately. So something to note, and I think David will talk about this in a bit, is anytime the state changes, the component will automatically re-render, and anytime a prop changes, the component will automatically re-render. And David's going to visualize that in a little bit.
So hey, Ryan, question for you. I see this one coming in a couple times. So if I click on the checkbox again, will it be unchecked?
Currently, no. Yeah. So that is something that's I would have to do. So we can do a little bit of live coding. I would want to, instead of straight up using the set is checked, I'd want to have a handler. So I'd have a handle checking. And I would create a function to handle that. And basically it would toggle it, right? So I would check if it's true, then set it to false. And if it's false, then set it to true. And that would give me a toggle ability.
And a follow-up to that, Ryan, is are type checked and unchanged reserved keywords, or did you make them up?
So type checked and on-changed are reserved keywords for the input tag.
I had a feeling that multiple people may have had that question.
Yeah.
Ooh, live coding with Ryan.
If I can spell.
Yeah, let's be the demo god.
Yeah,
will
this is the
fail.
best
He will
part, right?
fail.
When
He will
when
fail.
everybody's
He will
watching
fail.
you type, right?
I know.
Let's see if
Yeah.
we can mess Ryan up, just distract
Yeah,
him.
yeah. You do not want to know how many people are watching, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Don't talk me. Don't tell me. Oh, hold on. It's probably gonna. There. So now I can uncheck it.
Sharma says,
Nice.
"This is scary."
Victory! Okay, yeah. Put all the victory in the chat. Yeah. Do we have a trophy? Trophy? Do we have a trophy logo? Something?
I consider that a victory that
victory.
I live coded and didn't make a mistake. But yeah, so this is how you would probably want to do it. This is you create a specific handler and then you call the set is checked depending on. Yeah, that's how you'd probably want to do it.
Nice.
Pressure was high, but I did it. Yeah.
The heat is on.
Boom, boom, boom.
I just went to the 80s. I just went to the 80s. Sorry.
Now, Shad asked if we can use the not operator instead of else. You could. I just use else because I'm checking. I have to check one thing, and then if it's not that, then it's the other one. So that's why I did that. All right, cool. So yeah, that's basics of React. That should, getting the basic create React app going, getting your basic app, and then making your first components, and that's will definitely get you started. So with that, I am going to hand it back over to Cedric.
Oh, will you do that?
Do you want that?
I need to
You
work
really
a
want to
little
give it
bit
back to
more.
Cedric? Make Cedric earn his keep, right?
Jeez. Can you put me
just-
back the React logo around of me? No.
I did kind of like you. I did kind of like you on top of the React logo. I thought that was really nice. Now,
Okay,
Ryan, I don't know if you
guess
see
what?
it, but I'm seeing a double screen effect. You might want to turn off your video.
Oh, you know what? I would just do one slide, so I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I can see just the hand right and left.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me move to the database. As of now, we do have a full working React app, but the states, the to-dos are still stored in memory. And we would like to be able to store that in a database. So the front end tier, okay, done. It's green. We are ready. Now we will look into the database. Again, we don't want you to install anything today, and we do have a good news for you. At DataStax, we do have a DB that you can use for free, and it's called AstraDB. And the next hands-on will be now your turn to work and to create these AstraDB, just to have a database ready to go when later we will do some code and would like to interact with the database. And we do the database before because it will take a few minutes for the database to initialize before be able to accept the queries. AstraDB is based on a NoSQL database called Apache Cassandra. No, MongoDB is not the only NoSQL database out there for the front end. So we are not using a stack like Mern or Min. We are using AstraDB as a database, and you will see how easy it is to use. And with that, let's move to the AstraDB part. And I think now it's David's turn to work a little bit, right?
Yeah. Oh, now I gotta work now. All right.
Yeah, seems like to be
Make
too
me earn my
quiet
keep.
for now. Yep. And I will be
have
still
been
there
pretty
to
quiet,
disturb
it's true.
you, David. Count on me to disturb you, David.
All right. Yeah, no, you disturb away, disturb away. Hopefully you are seeing my screen. And
No,
now
we
for so
don't.
many of you,
No, we
oh,
don't.
not yet?
No,
Let's see.
no, we do.
Oh,
Just kidding.
oh, do we see the screen? No, we do. Okay, good. All right. All right. So for so many of you who've been asking where, the GitHub repo and everything like that, this is now the part where you're going to start doing some of this stuff with us, right? I've seen a ton of questions come through with regard to the database, right? I think there were a lot of really insightful questions seeing you guys work with the to-do items, be like, well, where are you storing this? Is there a backing database? And as Cedric was just talking, we hadn't gotten there just yet. So we're going to do that now. So I'm going to give you the repo. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to give you the link to this first part here. So here is the first exercise. So step 1, let me go ahead and pop this in. And I'm going to spam it so it doesn't get missed. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. I spammed it. I wasn't kidding. Okay. Wasn't kidding. Now, by the way, and I've seen some questions about this as well. If you're just watching for now, that's totally cool, right? We have a couple different ways. So at the end, once we finish the 2 hours, we're actually going to stay around for another hour, do some QA, and get started on the homework. So if you want to do stuff then, that's totally cool. If you want to watch the video later and do it, we have our Discord channel. You can come and get help or chat with us anytime, but everything should be in here. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to start stepping through step 1 with you. Let's get our database up and going. And then we're going to start to slowly kind of connect up the app to the database and kind of see what that looks like. Yes, Heidi, someone's got to block me for spamming. That's true. So by the way, something else I want to point out on these buttons, on any of the buttons you see in here, unfortunately, the markdown does not allow us to do a target blank. So what that means is if you click on it, it's just going to take over the tab you're in. In a lot of cases, that's not what you want to do. So I really suggest to either right click, say open link a new tab, or to middle click or control click, whatever it is on your system to launch into another tab. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. That's what you see me doing here. So if you've never used Astra before, and I know the question will come up, this is totally free. You'll not be asked for a credit card. You won't have to pay a thing. Everything we're going to do is in a free tier. So if you've never signed up before, then you can either sign up with Google, with GitHub, or you can just put in an account. Now, I obviously have an account, so I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. And it should only take a moment to register. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, it's free. I already see some question coming. Don't worry about the $25 or anything like that. Yeah. It's free, no credit card, no charge. That's data stacks paying for you up till you reach 40 million query per month. It will not happen anytime soon. Don't worry about that. It's totally free. Yeah. And you won't get charged any.
Yes, and Rashwan, are we going to do a to-do app? Yes. Yeah, you're going to do a to-do app. That's actually what we're driving to now. Yeah, we're totally doing that.
Yes.
Okay, so now for some of you who've come in, if you've never had a database before and you've registered, you might actually come to a screen that looks like this. Okay, it's going to let me blow this up just a little bit for you, right? And you're going to see this create a database screen. And if you are curious, if you get asked for like a plan, pick the pay as you go. Now I recognize we say it's free, and then you're like, whoa, 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 pay as you go. That's just the way that it's named. It's because it's serverless and it can expand dynamically and contract dynamically. You get, as part of the free tier, like 40 gigabytes of storage, millions of reads and writes. We are never going to touch that, right? And again, if you don't put in a credit card, you'll never be charged a thing. So pick pay as you go. Like I said, you'll see a screen that looks like this. It says create a database. Now at that point, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll notice in the instructions, right, we have this database name and key space. Now you can technically put whatever you want, but we're asking for the purposes of this workshop, use these values, right? So when I go to the database name, I'm going to put in that to-dos workshop DB, just like you see here. And then for the key space, I want to use to-dos. Now, as far as the regions and the providers, you can choose any of them. Now, the question always comes up, hey, do you have to like pay AWS or have an account? No, that is 100% being managed by Astra for you. This is we're just giving you a choice. It's flexibility on what provider you want. Pick a region that is close to you. I'm in the East Coast of North America, so I'm going to pick something close to me, right? The closer, the better. And then once I have my database name, my key space name, and a provider and region, then create database will light up. I just say create database, and it will create. Now, this is going to take just a moment, right? As Cedric mentioned a second ago, it'll take it a couple minutes to start one of these up. This is a fully featured NoSQL Cassandra cluster that you're getting, right? What's really awesome about this is you can literally just point, click, and start the thing up, and then go from there, and you're getting all the benefits of Cassandra and such like that. So it does take just a couple minutes. What you're looking for is either it'll say pending or initializing. If that's the case, you're totally cool. So once you get here, give us a thumbs up. Let us know. We want to get a feel for where everybody is. Does Astra have drivers for Spring Boot? Hey, Relentless, how you doing? Cedric, I believe you probably have answers to that.
Oh yeah, so yeah, where did you find the question? But anyway, I've created a Spring Boot starter for Astra. So, it's on the Maven Central, and, you can go to on GitHub, go to DataStax/Astra SDK Java, or, reach me a DM and I will send you the link. I'm the one maintaining the Spring Boot starter for this technology. So.
Awesome. I am seeing a set of thumbs up coming in. Wonderful.
Nice.
That sounds like our databases are getting created. Exactly. So again, we can just leave that go for a moment. And I'm seeing plenty of those come in. Woo. All right, awesome. All right, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to go to step 2, create a security token. So if you think about it, when you have a cloud-based, any kind of cloud-based service, but a cloud-based database or something like this, in order for your clusters, your databases, your servers, whatever, to be accessible to your applications, well, the endpoints have to be publicly available. But you don't want to have your instances and your databases just wide out in the open, right? You need a layer of security. You're going to find, by the way, for any of the cloud providers, Amazon, Google, Azure, anyone really out there, having a security token is kind of the way you do things, right? Astra is no different. So we do provide that security layer as well. So what we're going to do here is, now, mind you, there is a link right here. If you go to this link, it'll actually bring you through the instructions on how to create a security token. You'll notice these little show me's as well. If you click on one of those, we have little animated GIFs in here that show you what to do. Now, I'm going to step through this with you. We're going to do it together, right? We'll create our token. But I just wanted to point out that there are app links and the animated GIFs. If you're going to do this later and on your own, we've tried to provide resources so you have the instructions of what to do.
Yes, so many thumbs up. So people are following.
Perfect.
That's great.
Excellent. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, at this point, I should still be in my dashboard. I have my active database. Wonderful. Now I want to come up to the top left-hand corner where it says current organization. There's a drop down here. And in there, there's organization settings. So go to organization settings. And then token management. All right. Yeah, Mahendran, we are going to do Swagger. We're going to get into that a little bit later. We need to set up this token first. Because in order to do anything with Swagger, that whole security layer I'm talking about, you need a way that you can authenticate in order to talk to the database throughout, with any of the APIs. So we need to set this up first. Great, Kirsten.
Yeah, speaking of
That's
which,
great.
David, maybe you should say a word of on APIs after you created the token.
Yeah, maybe. Are we going to talk about
Maybe.
APIs, Cedric? What do you think? All right, so
let's create your token.
Yeah, let's create the token first. Let's create the token first. Okay, so now once I'm in token management, I want to select my role. In this case, go ahead and just pick database administrator and say generate token. Now here's the key thing, right? Once you show this once, if you navigate away from this page, you will not be able to get these values again. What you want to do is say download that CSV, so that way you have a way to access it later, right? Now, if you leave this page open, you can do that. You can actually use these little copy widgets to pull it, but you're going to need this later. So really download the CSV so you do have access to this later. Now, something very, very key about these tokens, don't ever share them, right? In the homework, especially in the homework, when we're going to ask you to give her screenshots and stuff, you don't ever want your token to go out in the open. Now, right now, you might ask about mine. Well, guess what? After the session, I'm going to delete that promptly because this will give people access to your database, right? That's exactly why after you generate them and you navigate away, you can't just get it again. So again, make sure to download that CSV so you have it locally, because you're going to need this later. Okay, so once you've generated your token, let's see a thumbs up. Let's make sure you're good. Download your CSV. And then we'll move on to the next section.
Yes. Me. No, I'm just kidding.
No. And then, as a matter of fact, I should point out, I totally didn't tell you that. When you're in this token section, to get back, you'll find there's this little astra. Click on the astra here. That'll bring you back. You could go a couple different ways, but if you click on the little icon up here, it'll bring you back. Oh, Reggie, I will share the GitHub link here in a moment for step 3. All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Folks are getting their tokens generated. I'll give them a second. All right, here is for step 3. I'm going to spam it again because I like to spam, because I'm allowed to.
Oh yeah, you like to spam, David. I can tell.
There we go. Spam in step 3. Okay, moving on to step 3. It seems like, will our homework be checked? Daniel is yes. We actually manually check all of the homework.
Yes. Yes.
And we love it. No, honestly, it's actually a lot of fun. We love connecting with all of you that way. We have sometimes, like last week, oh God, how many hundred of them we had to go through. But no, we manually check all the homework. Yeah.
Yes.
Red Diamond spammer. Oh, Jenya, when the CSV is not working when you try to open it, make sure that depending, I don't know what system you're on or what OS or anything like that, you might want to just open it in any kind of like a text reader or document reader or something like that. Yeah. Yes, Felipe, manually, because we have to check your work. We have to actually look at them. That's totally true. Yes, you are making a token for DB admin, Megan. That is correct. And yes, Prayam, you can use a token from last session. I'm glad you asked that question. When you create these tokens, until you delete them, they exist indefinitely. And the point of that is, if you think about it, you're going to create a token and you're going to link your app, right? You're going to set that into your app's environment to then talk to the database. So you don't probably want those kind of, timing out every day or something like that. So it's up to you. You have to ensure that from a security standpoint, this is another reason why we say, don't put your tokens out in the open, right? You don't want those out in the open. You want to keep them secret. But yes, they will last indefinitely. But you can always create new tokens and you can always delete tokens. So no big deal there. All right, I see a lot of, oh yeah, Yeston. Yeah, that was, what was interesting is that was I was on the front end piece and we kind of hit it hard. The back end was fine, but the team has addressed that, by the way. That should not be an issue again.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I saw a lot of thumbs up. Wonderful. Okay, so moving on now to step 3. So here's where we're going to start talking about the APIs. But before we do that,
David,
we need to go to Cedric.
Yeah,
yes,
I need to stop you, David. I know. You want to move so fast.
So Cedric's going to talk about APIs before we get into the exercise.
Exactly. But I'm the slide guy. Give me a bunch of slides, please.
Yeah.
But next week I won't be the slide guy. I will be, doing more stuff.
Oh, Raul, real quick, I want to answer this because I'll address it. Can you discuss how you store these tokens securely outside of demo apps? Yes. Later on, when we get to, we're not going to really address it today. In the next part of the series, when we get to next week and the week after with the TikTok and Netflix apps, you're going to be using a platform called Netlify. This is Netlify, and having a service like this is where you can store those types of tokens securely in the framework, in the service itself. That way you do not have to expose them directly to the application where they can be seen or anything like that. So it's actually very easy to take I'll mention it later, but when we go to set up our to-do app, we're going to create a .env file, an environment file. All of those values later on, not today, but later on in the series, you're going to see how those then get injected up into a service like Netlify, where we're actually hosting our app and store them securely. So we will talk about that coming up.
Exactly. So you just created the database altogether using the web UI, yep. And we do have the database. Now you might ask the question, how do we interact with the database? The default behavior is to use the drivers. Maybe you have used some relational database, or you need a dedicated library that will know the binary protocol and the binary way to interact with the database. And it can be pretty cumbersome to learn about multiple drivers. So what we would like to do is, on top of the database, provide an API. So what is an API? An API It's stands for Application Programming Interface, and it will list the operation that developer can use. It's simple as that. And so REST API are a way to invoke operation and method using HTTP format, HTTP verb, get, put, post, delete. Those are the default methods in the verb in the HTTP world. Using that to create things, update things, and delete things in the database instead of having to learn SQL or way to interact with the database. We will stick to API. And API work on HTTP and interact with JSON format. And JSON, okay, JavaScript object notation. JavaScript love JSON because when you load a JSON, JavaScript will know out of the box how to map that as an object and start working with that. That's really the default data structures for JSON. So instead of having us to learn about SQL, how to interact with the database, we would like to have an API. And you know, if you do have a little of experience in the front end, you know that front end, 100% front end guys doing React, create component, and so you do have another team or more advanced user called the full stack, the guy that will implement an API for you as a front-end developer to interact with. And these full stack developers have multiple technical choice. They can build a backend in Java or JavaScript or anything they like, but it can be different from the front end because it's not the same runtime. Today is all about JavaScript. So if you would like to build an API using JavaScript, you will probably use a framework called Express. But guess what? This is not what we will do today. Today, we will use an API that's provided out of the box by Astra. So Astra DB, just the database you created, it's not only the database, but also a set of API to interact with the database. You don't have to implement a backend yourself. And I think I'm done with the API. Just stating that this API layer in Astra DB is something we call Stargate, and it's open source. So it's not only inside Astra DB. If you know somebody who using Cassandra, just told them about the Stargate to create these APIs for you. And with that, I think we can move to this API. How does it work, David? Can you make us a demo?
All right, let's find out. Now, if you could, Cedric, could you do me a favor? Could you go back a slide? Go to where you have the get, put, post, that kind of deal.
Yes, yes.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, you can see on the pictures,
yes,
get is blue, post is green, get is blue.
Right.
What is this UI? What is Swagger, David? What is Swagger?
Yeah, so Swagger is actually a really nice capability that, from Stargate and Cassandra, we are actually providing this for you, but it provides a nice REST API web-based interface that you can use to then interact, in this case, with our Cassandra database, our Astra database, right? And what I really want to point out is notice on Cedric's slide there on the left under REST API, where it says use HTTP format methods and verbs, things like get, post, put, delete. So what this is really talking about are what we call CRUD, right? Create, read, update, and delete. When I want to change things that are in the database to then reflect the state of my application. Maybe I want to add something. Maybe I want to update something I've already added. Maybe I need to delete something. Maybe I need to read something, right? So it's these four basic methods that pretty much anytime you're interacting with a database, you're going to need. So you're going to find that these are exposed, right? These types of methods are exposed here in HTTP with things like get, post, put, and delete. And those roughly translate. Get is read, right? Post is create, put is update, and delete is delete. Don't ask me why. They're just. I realize that you're like, why aren't they the same words? This is what happened. That standard probably came out 20 years ago, right? So I think hopefully those words will make sense, kind of where they come into play. And the reason why I want to point them out, and the reason why I asked Cedric to show that, is now when we go into the Swagger UI, as Cedric was mentioning, you'll see these different color icons in Swagger, and you'll see those same words are being used, and that helps you kind of identify what kind of method we're talking about. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen again. All right. There you go, Ryan. I gave you my screen.
I got it.
All right, so now cows are pretty cool, Red Diamond. Cows are pretty cool. Ooh. All right, so now we are going to step 3. I'm gonna spam it again because it's fun. And again, if you remember what Ryan and Cedric were doing previously, in particular, I think Cedric, in your CodePen stuff, you were calling storage, right? A storage method.
Yes.
And all that storage was just local. So as he was making changes to his application, state changes, they were just being stored local, right? There was no backing database. And this is where we're going to start to kind of build up the knowledge of what these APIs are, what to do with them, and then how we can tie the database in. Okay, so going now to step 3. Now, if we go back, again, I'm going to go through the steps. I'm going to bring you through them slowly, but they are all here self-service for you. So if we go back to our Astra UI, and if you're not already there, if you're not in the dashboard, you can click on dashboard. And we built this to-dos workshop, right? So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on the database that we're working with today. And then within there, I want to go to connect. So the connect tab here up top. And then we're using a REST API. Now notice there are multiple APIs here. There's document, there's GraphQL. That's fine. We're going to address those in later sessions in this series. But today it's REST. So we're going to click on the REST API. And then you want to go down to where it says launching Swagger. This link is your link. This is an endpoint that is generated specifically for you. Now, this is, again, one of those areas where you want to right click and say open and link in a new tab, or middle click. Just put it in another tab. That's really what it comes down to. You should see something that looks like this. Yeah, Jacob, the GraphQL stuff is coming in the 3rd week, I believe. Yeah, with the Netflix client. All right, so you should see something like this. So that's pretty much what the instructions here are doing. Now, if we're at step 3B, then what we want to do, the first thing we want to do is create a table, right? We want to work with our REST API via Swagger to create a table. Now, admittedly, there's a lot going on in Swagger. So you know, what you want to do is you want to find schemas. So I'm going to scroll myself down to the schemas section, right? Now, something clear, or something I want to be real clear about. Notice how you see these V1, there's also V2, right? The version we're going to use for everything we do today are going to be the V2 versions, right? So that's important when you go to this next piece. Okay, so notice here, V2, and it's create a table. So I'm going to look for create a table. Now, you could just search, you know, you could be smarter. I'm going to scroll down and kind of find it. Here we go. Okay, here it is. Create a table. Notice it's V2, schema, key spaces, key space name. So something cool about REST, by the way, and we're going to get into this a little bit more later. This is actually exposing an endpoint that is accessible to your applications. I'm going to show you where that comes in play later. But you can literally, once you have the full URL of this, you can actually execute those CRUD commands, those create, read, update, and delete, with nothing but a URI like this that you just build up. I don't have to download code. I don't have to have a library installed that I interact with or anything. I can literally just access these types of commands, these methods, right through the endpoint URI. And so, like I said, we're gonna play with that today. So again, make sure that you're in V2, schemas, key spaces, key space name, and tables. Create a table. Let's see. Now, once you're here, you're not going to be able to do anything here until you hit try it out. You need to click on try it out. Now, remember that token that I said download the CSV? You're going to need it later. That's what I was talking about, right? So you want, there's 3 values in that CSV. You want the very last one. It starts with astra CS, right? So if I go, whoopsie, if I go to here, they are very long. Right, so notice that it starts with astra CS like this, right? So again, that is out of the 3 values in your CSV, that's going to be the last value there. You want that token. That's what you're putting in here, where it says Excursander token, this is the token. This is how you're going to authorize or become authorized. So when you go to use the API, this token will give you that authorization layer. Otherwise, you won't be able to do anything. Now the key space name, I have put that in here. Remember, we created this earlier. It's to-dos. So I'm going to go ahead and say to-dos, right? And then the body. Now in this case, we're actually going to use some JSON. And some of you may have these widgets. You can just click the little widget here to copy this, or you can highlight the whole thing. You want the whole thing, right? Now, a couple things I want to point out about what's going on here. So this is just a table definition. And if you think about it, when we create a table, well, we need to know things like, well, what columns do I have in the table? What are their names? What are their types? Is there a key? So on and so forth. That's all we're defining here, right? So if I take a look, whoop, I keep fat fingering that. If we take a look, you'll see that name of the table is going to be rest from readme by ID, right? And some column definitions. Okay, I'm going to have a column called ID. I'm going to have another one, called text. Another one called key, right? So on and so forth. What are their types? Okay, I want to use a UUID for my ID. For text, it's text. For completed, right? That's a Boolean. So we're just defining what the table is going to be here. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to replace this, and I think I hear a question from Cedric, and let me just do this real fast. I'm going to replace what was in the default body with the code that I copied from here, right? And then once I do that, I'm going to hit execute. If all is working well, I should get a code 201 that says created, right? And it's telling me right here that I've created a table called rest from readme by ID.
Hey, David, could we zoom in to the page a bit?
Yes, we can. Is that what you say, Cedric?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, just zoom in.
Okay. Sorry about that. I am wearing small red earbuds. Yes, yes, so I am. Yeah, right there. Yeah. So yeah, as a matter of fact, if you get done with that, right there, give us a thumbs up. Right. Let us know that you've created the table with your Swagger UI. Oh, Dion, if you use version 1, no big deal. Just go ahead and go find the proper one and reapply the command. Yeah. Yes, press execute, Megan. Yes, absolutely. So once you get to the point, once you get to the point where you filled it all out, you filled out your token, your key space name, and the body, press execute. Wonderful. And you should see, now something else I want to point out for your homework especially. In the homework, we're only asking you to provide the end screenshot of the full thing. You don't have to provide screenshots for every single step of all the things we're doing, just at the very end, because in order to get to end, you kind of have to have done all the things before, so we know. But do us a big favor. Notice here in Swagger, in the curl command, this is the command under the hood that's actually being issued to issue this. It has your token, so don't paste this in. Don't post these because your token is sitting there in the open. I just want to point that out. Last thing I want to show you here, notice the request URL. This to me is actually really cool. I love the fact that Swagger does this because sometimes it can feel a little abstract, like what endpoint are you talking about? What's the URL? This is what I'm talking about right here, right? So notice I have this endpoint that's been generated for me from DataStax, but from the rest of it, right, then this is the endpoint. This is how I access creating a table. Could I do this from my application code? Absolutely, right? And as a matter of fact, that's exactly what we do in code. So when you start up the to-do app, the real one, it actually executes against this very endpoint to then create my table dynamically, right? So it's a really neat way that, again, I don't have to even import a library. I don't need any like special classes or anything like that. I can literally just call this endpoint and pass these values in. All right, good. So I'm seeing thumbs up. It looks like folks are getting there. I do see Siddharth with a 500 error. Oh yeah, Niha, Postman is different from Swagger. So Postman, Swagger is going to provide you with all those REST endpoints, right? I don't know, Cedric, you're going to have more that you want to say on this. Where in Postman, yes. Postman is, it's not a web app, right? Postman is an application that you download, and then you can configure to do very similar things, but it's also not limited to REST. Yeah, Cedric, do you have more you want to say there?
Yes, exactly. So Swagger has really generated HTTP web UI for generated client web UI based on the API specification. So you use Swagger close to your API. Each time you add a new endpoint, Swagger UI will be updated with the new endpoint, and you do have this ready to go client. Postman is a thick client that you will, an app, not a mobile, it's just an app that you need to install on your machine. And you can also create some queries to do the same. So yeah, those are pretty close. And at some points, somebody created Postwoman, which is Postman in a web version. It should be probably in the middle of those two tools.
Yeah, by the way, I noticed that somebody had a 400 error, right? If you have a bad request or unauthorized, I invalidated my key, right? So if you have a bad key or something, like by a bad key, maybe something got fat fingered, a character wasn't in there, that could cause a 401, a 400. I was thinking if I just mess up this, it's funny. It's actually, I don't know if there's a layer of validation here, Cedric, but it's not letting me execute when I invalidate the JSON. That's
wow.
funny. Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
Same here. Here we go. So if your key space name is incorrect, then that would give you a bad request, right? Because the key space does not exist. So I would say take a look at the error message that it's giving you to make sure that you're good. If it is not to-dos, you may have created a key space. If you created your own key space, like if you missed the instruction and didn't put in to-dos, then you'd need to use that one. All right, so I see I saw a bunch of thumbs up, so I'm going to go ahead and move on now to step 4. Let's go ahead and do that. So again, I'm going to spam because I get to. It's fun. Okay. There it is. Step 4. Step 4. Okay.
Nice.
All right. So now we've created a table. Wonderful. We've created a table with a REST endpoint. Now let's put some data in the table, right? So this time, we're going to go to the data section, right? So if you think about it, schema are the things that we're going to use to create our DDL, our data definition language, right? The statements that like create table, anything I'm going to create, in the structures and stuff in the database, it's in schema. But when I want to work with data, like I want to insert some data into a table, now I'm going to go to the data section. So by the way, just a little hint, copy your Astra token because you're going to need it. And now I'm going to go to data. Now, again, check out, make sure that you're using V2, right? We're going to find add row, but V2 is the key thing. So, oh, wait, here's add row. Nope, that's V1. I want add row V2. Here it is, right? So now I want to add a row to the table we just created. I need to try it out again. I almost forgot. I'm going to put my token in, right? I totally did that. Now, again, we give you the values right here. So if you're like, hey, what's the key space name? Well, it's to-dos.
Hey, David, we're getting a few requests for more Zoom. If you could.
Oh, even more on the Swagger?
Yeah.
All right.
Some of that text is pretty small.
Zoom it in.
There, that looks pretty
How's
good.
that? Is that? All right.
Yeah, way better.
Okay. Now, remember, we just created a table a moment ago called REST from README by ID, right? So this is the table that we now want to insert some data into. So we're using our key, we're using our key space name at to-dos, and now I want to insert some data into the table we just created. All right, so now you'll notice this section says copy the following into the JSON body. So I'm just giving you a row. Now let's take a look at this row when I copy that in there. Okay, so just a couple things. If you're wondering, like, where did this come from? No, I don't want that. Just that. That's right. We want that exactly. So if you remember when we created the table, I said we had an ID field, right? We had a completed Boolean. We had a text field. We had a key. So all we're doing is we have key value pairs here, right? Here's the ID. Here's my ID. Here's completed. Here's the value. Here's some text. That's the to-do item itself, and no key here. So now when I say execute, I should get a response body 201 if that worked. It's going to give me back the ID of the data that it created. So now I've inserted the row in there, right? I've inserted the row into my table.
Oh.
What are we seeing?
A document ID.
Yeah.
Or just an ID.
Just an ID. Just an ID. Yeah. And again, notice the URL here, right? Notice our endpoint. And you'll see this is the same thing I would access from my application. Now notice here, by the way, this is cool. I can literally put the name of the table that I'm working with, right? It's through this endpoint. I'm putting the name of the table that I'm working with. Also, I should have pointed this out before. This is a post, right? This is going to be a post because I'm inserting some data into the database. All right. Yep. And now, yep. And if you get there, give us a thumbs up. Let us know. Yeah, if you're getting like a 404 or 401, it very well could be the wrong key space name or the wrong table name. Like if I invalidate this and take a look, uh-oh, not found. It should, the errors are usually pretty descriptive.
They are.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Saraba, yes. CRUB create post. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, I love we've got some. Oh wait, here it is. Yeah, I saw the Vulcan one in there. I can do that one with this hand, but I can do Nanu from Mork and Mindy for this hand. Yeah. I just went back to the 80s right there, right? The early 80s. Oh, missing token. Yeah. Satha, if it says missing token, then that tells me that something is up with the token here. Maybe it's not pasted in properly, or if it's just missing it altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sathasavam has the same issue. It's if it says unauthorized for operation, you're probably missing the token in the
yeah. So if I were to take this out and do that, then oh yeah, funny enough, it must, yep, it's validating out. It won't let me do it completely, but if somehow, let's say I miscopied the token, then I would get something like that. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I have to like force it on one hand to do it the other one. Okay, so I saw a good amount of thumbs ups. All righty, so now we've created a table, we inserted a row, but now let's look at those values, right? So let's go to step 5. And by the way, don't forget that this is all part of the homework, right? So if you're a little behind or anything like that, no big deal. No big deal. You can follow up at your own pace. I want to make sure that we can Okay, so we're going to go to step 5, retrieving values. Now, we created our table, we've added a row. Let's get the data back. Let's see the data we just put into the database. And I want to point out this is using a get this time, right? We're going to retrieve and get a get. So now we want to go to data again. We're in the data section. I'm going to pull out my key. I need it every single time. That doesn't change. Okay. Now I want to say retrieve all rows, right? I'm going to say retrieve all rows again, v2. So let's see, retrieve all rows. Retrieve all rows, v2. Open that up, try it out. Can't forget that part. I'm going to paste in my token. I want to give it the key space name that we're working with, the table name. Again, we're giving these all right to you here in the instructions. Okay, there we go. That's it. That's all you need for this. We're not doing a where clause or anything like that. Just I want everything from this particular table. Now I'm going to execute. And boom, look at that. That's the data we inserted before. So right there, that's a nice verification because I go, okay, well, in order to get that response, I know that I have the correct key space, I've got the correct table, and I'm retrieving the row that we inserted before. All right. Oh, Siddhant, the homework, just to point that out, I'm going to scroll up real fast. The homework, we have a homework section. The homework is to do essentially 2 things for this week. One is you want to get to the end result of doing the to-do app. I'm actually going to demo that part, but that'll be part of your homework. Yep. And then the other part is to do what Ryan did in the beginning and create a React app from scratch using MPX. So we provide all of that in here. You'll find all the links and everything are here in the repos. Okay, so if you retrieve the rows, can I get some thumbs up? I want to get to this point. Get some thumbs up. Let us know that you've done it. Cedric, are you doing it with us?
Yeah.
Are you really? That's great.
No, I can't. I need to get serious, read the question, read all the thumbs up. Now we are doing great. So this is 5 steps. So, let's move on.
Yeah.
Remember, David, we need to play a little game in the end.
We do. So I'm going to get going on this next part here real fast. And then so for the rest of thank you for the thumbs up. Awesome, everybody. So from step 6 on, I'm actually going to show you something real fast with the to-do app so we can kind of bring things to end to end with this API. Then we're going to get into some of the games. When we are done at the 2 hours, right, and we'll go into the then the session is over, right, and we're going to do another hour added on to go into some Q&A and go further into the homework, right? That's totally optional. It's totally up to you whether or not you stay with us for that time, right? But that's where we're going to get more into the rest of what's going on here. But for the time being, I'm going to move on. So this is all of the stuff from this Gitpod and all that. This is all part of the homework, and that's part of what I'm going to show you here right now. So wonderful. Okay, so what I've done here is I've kind of cheated because I already have things running. And this is part of what you're going to see, by the way, when you get this running in Gitpod, right? We're not going to do that part now. I'm just going to show it to you. And here's really what I want to point out, right? So for one, the first thing is, if you remember Ryan and Cedric, they were both talking about like React components and how you can dynamically update the DOM, right? So you're able to dynamically update all the HTML and stuff on the page without having to refresh or do anything like that. It just kind of injects it right into the page. Anyone here, if you remember the days when we had to actively refresh the page in the header usually, right? You'd see the page would just blink every second or something like that. Oh, the days. We clearly don't need to do that anymore, right? JavaScript has made things a lot nicer. So what I want to show here, though, is this is similar to kind of what they were showing, but now we have a tie into the database, right? So if I add, actually, I should do fun ones like Ryan did. Like, okay, did we already take over the world?
I thought I failed and I had to get bread and eggs. But if you want to take over the world, we can do that.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure to do that. I'll make sure to do that. So one thing I just want to point out then, as we now start to build into the actual real to-do app, this is part, again, what you're going to do in the homework, right? You should notice that as I add things like totally get more milk, and such, right? You'll see that what I've done in code. Let me blow this up a little bit too. Make this a little. See if I can't show you this. So in the code, and I actually found this really helpful to kind of track certain things. Ryan talked a little bit about like state and props and such. So what we've done is in a couple spots, we've just added a little console log that just prints it out, right? That just printing out to the console here. That's what this is doing. So anytime I make a proper state change, React is going to update my page, right? So I'm just, like I said, I'm just spitting these out in certain spots so you can see some of those changes. And you'll see this in the to-do app that you build, right? So you want to open up, if you notice, if I turn this off real quick, in most browsers today, you're going to have a more tools, developer tools. That's what we're looking at, right? That's all we're looking at. And what'll happen then is the console, when I turn on the console, I'll see these prop and state changes. So as I add items here, drink that milk, right? As I add items here, you'll notice that I'm getting a state change, right? Because I am now changing the state of the object that I'm working with as I add in more items. And what's really cool is then React is taking that and is injecting it onto the page dynamically. I don't have to do any more. I don't have to actively refresh or anything. You can really see that here. I think, Cedric, you were showing something similar. If I then complete one of these tasks, you can see right there, boom, it automatically makes that nice change, right? So you can see React is updating the page nice and dynamically. So that's really cool. And each one of these kicks off a prop or a state change, depending on what they are. So I found it kind of nice to play with this a little bit. And you can kind of start to like dig into the objects and see what those look like. Now on the back end, if I take a look, this is actually getting a little bit more into that backend piece because I want to bring you into where this REST API is coming into play. So when I am working on the back end, you're going to see these calls being made. Let's say like when I want to create something, right? So every time I add an item, I add a REST to do. So every time I go here and I add something, then I am calling this add REST to do. Now, I'm going to just gloss over real quick this function thing and what's going on with that. We are going to address that in the upcoming weeks. Here's what I really want to point out. Notice this create rest to do. And then I have a function over here that's create rest to do. Notice this right here. This should look really familiar, right? So what we're doing here, this is us calling that REST endpoint. It's the same thing Swagger was doing, right? It's the same thing. The difference, though, is, you know, where in Swagger we have like fields for the key space and our token and stuff. That is all being supplied in the code here and such. That's part of the body we're building up and such. But the key thing I want to point out is we're calling that same exact REST endpoint. So this is where we're able to use REST. So every time I make some kind of change here in the to-do app, these are just CRUD operations. I'm creating something. I'm reading something. Every time I create something here, create something here, I'm also rereading, right? I'm reading from the database to find out what the updated value is, or maybe I want to delete something, right? Each one of those are then executing against those same REST APIs that we were just working with the Swagger API, right? So that, I just wanted to point that part out. You're going to do this as part of the homework, and I really kind of impress upon you to experiment with that. Now, one other thing I want to do, and this is also going to be part of the homework, so don't worry about trying to find me or follow this, is I'm going to check out something else that we've added. All right, that should have worked. Now we have another update. It's in the final branch of the to-do app. Now this one, I'm going to turn some of this stuff off. This one actually has a nice little console. And what it does is every time you make some kind of update, it actually gives you the full endpoint with a where clause or anything, right? Let's say, what happens if I update something? I'm going to update this by changing it to completed. So now you can see, here's my path. I'm using what method? Is it a put? And here's the body. It changed completed to true. What happens if I uncomplete it, right? Well, here we go. Here's my path. I'm using a put again for an update, but notice my completed is false. So you can kind of break it down and you can see how each of the different states is now being stored in the backend database using the REST API. All right, so again, that's all part of the homework. I just wanted to show you that part. And with that, Cedric, I think we're going to turn it back over to you.
Yes, maybe me or Ryan. Let me.
Yeah, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it?
I think Ryan will do the game.
Yeah, I'm answering a question real quick. Oh, Kirsten beat me to it. Thanks, Kirsten.
Yes.
All right.
We are all into questions.
So,
So guess what?
What?
Time to play the game, right?
time to play the game. Yeah, we've got 10 minutes left, so we're going to do a quick game using menti.com. So if you go to menti.com and
open a new tab.
Yep, new tab.
I'm totally playing it this time. Totally doing it.
All right, I'm going to get some music going too. So I'm going to, let's see, swoop, that's the wrong one. Here we go.
Oh, and don't forget the code. Can you show the Menti screen?
I am doing that now, and I posted it in the chat as well. Let me get some music going as well. So we're going to do this game. This is a game that you have the chance to win some swag. The top 3 scorers will get some swag. So yeah, go to menti.com, enter the code that you see on the screen. You can also scan the QR code with your phone. And we'll get this started. When you get into Menti, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see your input in coming out of David's head.
That's a good place.
All right.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Awesome. So, something to note. The speed in answering the questions matters. You get more points the faster you answer. So, make sure that you're paying attention to your phone or the tab that Menti is opening and answering as quickly as you can when the questions come up. The stream has a bit of a delay, so if you're watching the stream to know when the questions are coming up, you'll be a little bit late. So, keep that in mind. Let's see. All right, looks like we got a good amount of people in. So I'm gonna get this started. Remember, menti.com, and enter in this code 55579682.
Oh, should I play as well? I want to win some swag.
Hey, you already have the swag. I don't even have the swag.
Yeah, I have.
That's
Oh,
true.
you don't?
Yeah, we don't get the
Yeah.
swag, do we? We don't.
Well, you guys have the T-shirt. I don't even have the T-shirt.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
we do.
I have a whole closet of T-shirts like this. If you want some,
Yeah.
you can have my
Okay,
old ones.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. So we will ask you a question. If you answer fast and correctly, you get points. The 3 fastest among you will get some swag. We will ship them all around the world. Also, housekeeping, please look at your tab or your phone and not the YouTube stream, because the YouTube stream has a delay of 1 second. So to be as fast as possible, stay close to your phone or new tab just to have the question as fast as possible.
All right, let's get started. Oh, there's everyone.
You started it so
Ready.
fast I couldn't put my name in.
Oh, what does that's misspelled. HTML stand for? High Trading Machine Learning, Hugo Thomas Mark Luke, Hypertext Markup Language, or Hippie Markup to Learn?
Hippie.
Oh my god, I haven't seen these questions. Oh boy.
Welcome
boy.
in my brain. Ryan.
Yeah.
Welcome
Right,
in my
right.
brain.
No surprise, everyone got that one correct. Hypertext Markup Language. Awesome.
Wow, that's actually awesome. I don't think I've
Nice.
ever seen a result quite like that. That's great.
Let's take a look at our leaderboard. Fastest was Ribbit.
Okay, who was the fastest?
Oh, actually, it's a tie between Ribbit and Carl. I think you
Oh,
might have
it's
an
a
opportunity
draw.
to change your name now if you were stuck with the default.
Yes, I did get one.
But it's a very
Wow,
close game.
40th. Wow.
All right.
Amazing. Okay.
Question 2. What is CSS not used for? Oh. Style and formatting of text, storing data, animations and transitions, page layout, and organization. Remember, what is CSS not used for?
Hey.
All right, yes. The majority of you got that correctly. Storing data. CSS is not used for storing data. It is for styling
Oh.
and animations.
So my questions are too easy, right? Everybody got his.
No, I think this is great actually, because either folks already knew this, or if they didn't, hopefully that means that they got the right information, Cedric. So nice job. Nice job.
Okay, let's do it.
And it was
Okay.
very information dense, so there's like lots to remember. So I think it's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Ooh, so many things.
All right, Roshan
so look
takes
at
the
that.
lead. Jimit is in second, Jason in third, but it's very close. All right.
And it's now totally different from before. That's just great.
All right, question number 3. What is the name of the object tree updated by JavaScript? The DOM, Document Object Model, the POM, Project Object Model, the JOM, JavaScript Object Model, or the MOM? We all need a mother.
That's a pretty good one. Oh, don't put your answers in the chat, by the way. Make sure you're putting them in Menti.
Yes, the DOM, the Document Object Model, is correct. A little bit tricky with the JavaScript Object Model. Can throw you if you.
That is a tricky one,
Yeah,
right? That seems
can
like
be a
that
little
could be a
tricky.
thing.
All right, let's see what our leaderboard
It
looks
could.
like. All right, who's the fastest? Looks like Amok was the fastest. Brings him up to second place with Alex K in first and Chad O'Brien in third. Yeah, man, that was a mix-up. All right, let's get to question 4. What is the name of the package manager for Node? NPX, MVN, NPM, or you cannot call it, it does not have a phone.
Dad jokes for the win.
Cedric,
Dad
you're gonna
jokes.
kill me.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. Next time you do the question, Ryan.
No, I like it. It's fun.
I love some of the answers in here in the chat. It's funny.
All right, yes, NPM is the package manager. NPX is the node package runner. A little bit tricky. All right. Let's see what our leaderboard looks like. going to beat Cedric. Pablo is the fastest, bringing them up to 3rd place. Amog is in 1st, and Roshan is in 2nd. Awesome. Man, it's been lots of mix-ups in this one.
Yeah, it's a tough competition.
It is competitive.
That's great to see so many move in the leaderboard.
All right, question 5. What is AstraDB? It is a local in-memory version of Cassandra. It is Cassandra as a service in the cloud with API. It is an integrated development environment, or IDE. It is a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. All right. Yes, it is Cassandra as a service in the cloud with API is correct.
Correct.
All right.
You know, I got to admit, though, we always have a solid amount of folks that answer it is an in-memory local version or Cassandra. I feel like we need to do better on that.
Maybe.
On our end, because if people are coming away that way, maybe we're not telling what they need to know.
Perhaps. That is true. All right. Julian was the fastest, brings him up to 1st place. Congratulations, Julian. 2nd is Tarika, and 3rd is Ronnie. Man, it changes every single time.
Yeah,
All
this one is the most changey up game I've ever seen.
Question 6, last question, last chance.
Dun, dun, dun.
Let's see what it is.
Suspense.
How does React organize source code? With React modules, with React divisions, with React components, or with a filer? Filer? With a filler?
Filler, maybe.
Filler. All right. With React components, majority got that correct. Yes, they are called components. React breaks everything down
Great.
into smaller. and
React
smaller.
Rolodex. I think
React
Jacob
Rolodex.
just got. We'll have to put that in there.
Yeah, that's a good option.
That's good. That's a good one.
All right, let's see our leaderboard. For those who are in the top 3, get ready to screenshot your page, your congratulations page, because you'll need it to claim your swag. So Ronnie, Pam, and Jacob are our top 3 winners. Congratulations.
Woohoo, y'all. Awesome.
Make sure you screenshot your results and email them to jack.fryer@datastacks.com. We will put that in the chat, and we'll also have a slide for it. And you can claim your swag.
Awesome. Congratulations to everybody.
Congratulations to the winner. It was not easy with so many people playing.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we have a quick last question, and I'll just leave this up for you guys to answer. A quick survey: what do you like the most, and what should we improve? And while you guys are answering that, we will finish up here with some information. So for those 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place winners on the Menti quiz, to claim your prize, send an email with the screenshot of your Menti screen to jack.fryer@datastacks.com, and we'll get your swag sent to you. And we ship worldwide, so it does not matter where you are, we will get it to you.
Yeah, nice.
All right. So homework. We talked about a lot about homework, and we've seen a lot of questions on how to submit homework. So we have the issues tab in our repo is where you're going to submit it. There's also a link in the repo in the homework section. If we can get a link to that.
I'm doing it.
Awesome.
Spam time.
Thank you, David. And so yeah, that in the repo is where we list out all the things that you're gonna do for the homework and where you can submit them. But it is an issue on GitHub, and we will address it. In the coming week, we will see all the homeworks coming in. We're gonna grade them. We'll accept them, and then you'll get the badge for each one of these workshops in the summer series, right? So today was the To Do app. Next week we're gonna do the TikTok clone, and then the final week we're going to do the Netflix clone. So you can get all of those badges.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess.
And then if you do them all, you can get the gold.
Yeah, if you do all of them, you get the gold badge for the series, full series. So yeah, when you go to the issues tab of the repo, there's a homework assignment. You can click the Get Started button, and then you're going to fill out the homework. So some important things to get your badge: you need to include your name and your email in the top part of that comment section. Make sure not to include any of the brackets. You can just replace the brackets with your name. We need that information to give you your badge. So, Yep.
Sorry,
David?
Ryan. One thing to point out, I see a lot of questions coming in.
Yep.
There's no hard limit on when to submit the homework, but we do ask that you submit it within a week, right? So that way, because we do these every week and we do multiple sessions, and that way we get them in the time that we have focus to actually get through the homework. So yeah, do it within about a week. Sooner the better.
Yep, definitely. Especially because if you're gonna continue on with us for the series, you're gonna have homework next week, and we have to grade that too.
That's right. That's right.
For the homework, that is a spinning badge. That surprised me. All right. So due date is next week. You're going to complete the hands-on. You're gonna run the to-do application in Gitpod connected to AstroDB and create a task. And you can upload a screenshot for your homework for that. Also, if you go through the create React app from scratch using npx, the steps there, I suppose we need to drop a link to that repo as well. I'll go ahead and do that. So you can also do a basic React app using our React Basics repo and submit your result there as well. We'd love to see what kind of customizations you make for your list items, or any component that you want to make. Be creative, experiment, and we'd love to see the small apps that you make for that. All the information is found on the GitHub repo, like I said, and there are some optional videos that you can watch as well, learning more about HTML and CSS and JavaScript and React.
Yep.
So we have a few learning paths that we just wanted to highlight. So we have at academy.datastax.com, we have several certification courses that we offer. Developer certification, administrator certification, and Cassandra certification. This is all related to Cassandra, which is what AstroDB is based on. And if you have any interest in getting certified in Cassandra, this would be a great resource for you.
Yes.
So coming up, what's coming? If you go to datastax.com/workshops, you can see all the upcoming workshops that we have, and you can sign up in the next few weeks. Obviously, today and tomorrow we have the workshop you just watched, which is the first week of the summer series. On the 10th, we have Cassandra Day India, which is a full day of workshops and content for India market. And then next week is week 2, where we're going to be building a TikTok clone. And we also have, same time on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
It will be a follow-up as today. So the next week, we will focus more on Node and the backend, how to build the app.
Yep, and we'll be using a different API. We'll be using the document API next week. And then I know someone was excited about GraphQL. That is the 3rd week. We'll be using GraphQL API with the Netflix clone. All right. Another mention of our Discord community. We've answered a lot of questions in the YouTube chat. When the workshop is over, the chat goes away and we can't answer those questions. So if you continue to have questions, we can answer them in Discord. It's a growing community where we can continue chatting with you and helping you through any issues that you're having. But you can go to dtsx.io/discord and join us there.
I'm going to spam that as well.
Awesome. And finally, we do these workshops every week, and we have quite the backlog of different workshops on our YouTube channel. You can go watch them. We keep them around. So this is just a small taste of all the content that we have, and we are continuing to do these every week. Even after the summer series is over, we do them every week, sometimes up to 4 times a week of different types of workshops. So if you want to stay apprised of when we go live, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be awesome. And also, if you go to that datastax.com/workshops, where you can see the upcoming workshops, that is a good resource as well. So with that is about it for our initial 2 hours. We want to thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are going to stick with us for some of the Q&A and kind of going through some of the homework, we'd love for you to stick around. But for those of you who have to call it at this point, we just want to say thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully that you learned a lot today and had a really good time. I had a great time. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
No, same here. This was wonderful. Great questions, great energy. Love all the thumbs up of folks going through the homework with us. And we will see you, well, for those of you who are not sticking around, we'll see you all next week for our next session.
All right.
And for those of you who are going to stick around, I think we could take like a 5-minute break. What do you guys think?
I could probably use a break to use the restroom. I kind of have to use the restroom. So, yeah, I think a quick couple minute break would probably be good.
Yeah, how much time do we save? 5 minutes and we're back?
Yeah. So we'll come back in 5 minutes, and then we'll start to do some Q&A and start going through the homework. Really, we're gonna sit down and do some of the homework. So if you want to join us, feel free. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys in 5 minutes.
5.
All right. Hello. Welcome back, everyone. Oh, hold on. Do that. Get some music going. All right. I need to get some of my windows all moved around. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Gadam, this part is still recorded, so it will be available offline as well. Let's see. Link to the workshop. Okay, we can get the GitHub link posted again.
Oh, okay, you just answered Gadam, I see.
Yep. All right, so here's the GitHub link. Again.
Golden spinning badge, yeah. All the spinning badges.
I did not expect it to be spinning. It just
Yeah,
took me by
that was
surprise.
Hey there, Poloco.
It was a joke, you know. It was a trap for you.
I don't know if you've all kind of figured out that we tend to play jokes on each other with content sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fun.
No, it's coming. The video is coming. Just should be fine now. By now.
Nyan, by the way, will we play the next week? Yeah, right. So as part of this series, right, then it's a 3-week series. So this is week 1, and then yes, next week same time. We do these on Wednesdays and Thursdays at the same time, so you can come to either session. But next week same time, and then the week after. So that's up to you.
Yes.
Alex asks a good question. So we did the to-do mostly with JS and Node.js. There are other ways to achieve this, is putting all this reactivity into JavaScript, make it more responsive, and is better practice. So Cedric gave an example early on of a basic to-do app using just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it worked. Like, you could add tasks, you could check tasks off, and you could delete them just like normal. The biggest thing that it was missing was connection to a database where it can store that data, so that, you know, when you refresh it, it stays with you. But that is certainly possible to make it straight in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Node.js and frameworks like React give you a huge initial step forward. It's just ultimately easier to do complex things. Like, maybe to do is not super complex, but it wouldn't take much to start getting into things that are a lot more complex, and frameworks like React and backends like Node help make that a lot easier. Adarsh asks, what's the badge about? So when you do homework, we issue badges, and you can use those badges on social media like LinkedIn to show that you are continuing your learning.
And you know, not only that, we also have the game. After the 3 weeks, the way to enter the game is really to have one of those badges, and you get one chance to win some gift card. We will redeem 3 500 Amazon gift card, and you know, the more badge you have, the more chance you have to win. And it's, you know, let me share that talk with everybody now on. Okay, so it's called Summer Series Game. Here it is. Yeah, I should have shared that link before. Hey, so here, you know, it's a Google form, and so if you get the badges, you get some chance. If you follow us on Twitter, YouTube, if you write a little blog post just to explain what you learn over the months.
Right. Naman.
So oh, go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
Naman asks, followed all the steps, but end result is not found. If you want to specify what step you're getting that on.
Yeah, what step are you on? Yeah.
And Alamir, yes,
Yeah.
we're using web front-end technologies for all of the apps that we're doing.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, I have a question from Shiva in Discord that I actually want to show on screen. You mind if I share screen real quick?
Go for it.
Because this one's a really, really wonderful question that may not be that obvious, and I recognize that we didn't call this part directly out. So let me know when I'm sharing. Right.
You're up.
There we go. All right, so now in Shiva, I'm gonna kind of look to you there in Discord to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down or whatever if I've got the question right. So Shiva went and was able to use Swagger to execute and create the table and got the correct response, right? As we see here. Wonderful. However, then when they tried to execute the endpoint directly, they get this unauthorized for operation missing token. Here's why this is such a wonderful example. So notice let me go to my Swagger actually. So notice in every case, when we're issuing commands in the REST API with Swagger, we always have to provide this token and things like to-dos and stuff like that. But the token is the key thing. Now, what we didn't really talk about and we glossed over is that this is actually being injected into the header of the actual the command itself. So notice, if you look at this curl command, so if you're not familiar with curl, curl is a command that's mostly familiar with like Linux and Unix operating systems. You know, you could use it on Mac. That you can use it to execute commands or issue commands against web addresses, HTTP addresses. So notice though what's happening here. Notice I have my REST endpoint, but also there's header information, and one of those pieces is the token. So you can't just, going back to your screen, if you try to just execute the endpoint, it's going to fail without the header information that includes your authorization token. That's exactly what that token's for. This is such a great example because this is one of those cases where you would not want somebody to be able to just simply execute against your endpoint, because then they could do whatever on your database, right? So this is where you need to provide that information in the header. So what's interesting is you're like, well, how do I do that, right? Well, generally, you're not just going to execute these out in the open. You're going to do one of a couple things. Either one, you're going to use something like Swagger to kind of test things out, or Postman or whatever, where you can then inject in things like the token in the header or in your code, right? So something, you know, we didn't really talk about this either, but in the code in the To-Do app, you're going to notice this file called Astra Rust Client, and in it, this is actually where it's defining the connection to the database. In particular, check this out. This get Astra REST client, notice what's being passed, right? So we have this Astra DB application token. Now, we haven't gotten to that part in the homework yet, so this is actually for you to do. But what'll happen is when you go through the homework, you're going to execute a command that's going to create and populate your .env file. Notice this Astra DB admin token. That is your token. So that is actually getting passed through into your REST client here when you interact with the database in code, right? So you don't have to like do that manually. Let's see, and Stefano was saying, Stefano was saying, I think even if no headers were required, the browser would do a get anyway. But I believe you're correct. I don't think it won't authenticate though. I believe you need the authentication token, but I could be proven wrong on that one. So hopefully, Shiva, hopefully the answer is what was going on there. So really, it's just that you can't really execute them out in the open without including your token in the header, right? So I could see where somebody would want to try to do this, but yeah, that's not going to work like that. All right, cool. Thanks, Ryan, for giving me the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Let's see, what else do we have?
Naman posted a screenshot in Discord. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
It looks like, so you're installing the Netlify CLI. If you finish that and then run Netlify dev, that will probably be, it's probably waiting for everything to install, and you need to start running the server. Not found is probably because it's not running. Oh wait, this is a good one. Yeah, no, that's, yeah.
Alex Kagel.
Oh, you're gonna answer Alex? Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, or the three of us, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But he made a good point. You know, we made it pretty clear at the even at the title that we will talk a lot about Node.js. And even if we talk a little bit what it is, do a slide. In the end, Ryan, after the npx, just start the app right away. And David, I also the app running. So maybe one of you can maybe show the structure of a project using Node. So Node is the runtime. So first, you will use Node to create the skeleton of your app. Then you can use Node for dependency management. You will have a package.json at the roof of your project. And you will use npm, so Node Package Manager, to download that. Node is your runtime, so based on the dependencies and target that you will find on package.json. So dependencies, this is what our app needs as third-party dependencies. So here, this is React, but we can pick totally something else. Angular and Vue are the three most known UI framework, but there are many of those. Then you see the script, and you see some config. So with that, you can do npm run start, that will execute the script to start the app. npm run build, that will execute the stuff to script to run the app. So it's really handling the full life cycle of the app when you dev, packaging, and it will also help you running. Yeah, what else could I have missed?
I think it's it's a pretty good rundown of Node. It's your environment. It handles all the
yes, it's a runtime. So to access your code, using HTTP something, you need something to listen about, to listen a port, to accept your request and render what you expect. This is the role of the Node runtime, to be honest.
And to answer, I know Alex asked this question, and as well as Adarsh, talking about React versus, as you said, Vue and Angular. So they are all very good, and they're all fairly popular. React is the most popular, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is the best. Personally, I prefer React. It's what I know the best. It makes they all have a little bit of a different strategy in how to organize their code and how they're using React uses components and breaks everything down into smaller and smaller components, and then builds it up. Vue does something similar, but the way you implement them are a little bit different. To me, React makes the most sense, and it's what I know the best, so that's what I typically use. It does not mean that it is the best choice. It does not mean it's the only choice. Lots of people use Vue, lots of people use Angular. As far as what a developer should choose in 2021, any of the three, really. I would say, just based on popularity, it would be very good to know React, because odds are you're going to come across a project that uses it. But I would. Vue seems to be simpler. Seems like, now I do not use myself, and I also like React because React could be an entry point to move to mobile with the React Native. Starting with your React code, you can transpose that to others' platforms. Yeah, that's a good point. React Native is really useful. All right.
Let's see. I'm reading Kirsten's response. Is that what you're reading?
Yeah, plus one with Kirsten. Nice.
That's great.
Yeah, keep them coming, Alex. We love answering questions.
Yeah, please.
So, I guess I'll ask the question. I did this. I was using this to show what Cedric was talking about, but this was our basic React app and component stuff. Are there any further, more in-depth questions that you have about this? I know towards the end, we did. Actually, I did want to point out, someone commented this. I don't know if Liddy is still here, but this handle checking that I implemented is not as elegant as it should be. Instead of this if statement, we can just do set is checked to not is checked, right? And that's it. And that'll just toggle it between true and false. Way better than a if statement.
Yeah, so Peter. Oh, I'm sorry. You weren't quite done, were you?
No, I was pretty much done. I just wanted to shout out Liddy, if they're still here, about the really elegant solution that I implemented live, but didn't do the most elegant way.
So I think you still have my screen up. Is that right, Ryan?
I have mine up, but I can put yours up.
Would you mind?
Nope.
So Peter over in YouTube, I want to say it's Moriarty, asks, where'd it go? Where's the command to generate the .env file? So what Cedric said, the touch.env is one way to do it. You can just generate it, but we're actually generating. We're providing you a nice little helper command that generates the .env for you. So I'm gonna show you that here in just a moment. I just have to wait for my Gitpod to. And here, let me. npm is downloading the world. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see this. Yeah.
Node_module. You know, if you don't know about this folder, soon you will.
Yeah. You might need to zoom in, David.
I did. Did I need to zoom in more?
You have to zoom in for each page. Chrome does it by tab.
This.
I mean, it's small. It looks small to me. I'm just trying to help.
I totally zoomed in, man. No. Is it still look small? Are you serious?
No.
I like zoomed in.
You
Right.
know what? Here we are using Gitpod, which is a ready to go VS Code. I don't think we add any extension. And if you download VS Code on your machine, I mean, really, I don't think you need some extension to do what we just show, but you will have to install Node, to get the npm command.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, here.
Yeah, Gitpod is just an IDE, right? But pretty powerful.
Yep. It's basically VS Code, straight up, just in the cloud.
Yep. Yeah. But it's also a Docker machine, so potentially you can put what you like in there. And just to end, in this IDE, you have everything you need to work with JavaScript, but also Java, but also Python, but also Flutter. There is a lot here that you can do with this IDE.
Okay. All right. So for Peter, and then I see Carrie Gallin. Where do I find the database detail syntax for my region? So I'm going to answer all these in one shot. So let me get my dog, though. My dog is set. But I did not have him in the room, if you heard that. Okay, so let's go ahead and answer these in a shot. So I've got the GitHub up now. So what I did is, now, by the way, what I'm just about to do, it applies whether you're doing GitHub or if you're in your local VS Code environment. And I also saw, I know I saw somebody ask, do you have this set up in the local VS Code setup? Yes. You should be able to follow the same exact instructions that are in the repo. The key thing, though, if you're going to do this locally, is up here in the prerequisites, right? This one. Make sure you've got Node 15 and npm 7 or later. I just realized, I think it's in the link. Yes, this page will show you how to do it. Just make sure that you have these local. In Gitpod, we're doing this for you, right? So when you launch the Gitpod, matter of fact, you may have noticed all of the npm stuff where I'm downloading the world. We're actually doing this for you. In particular, if you want to know more about Gitpod, I'll just tell you real quick. When you use Gitpod, you can configure something that's .gitpod.yaml, and then check this out. I can tell it, hey, install stuff. So this is upgrading my node, and this is upgrading my npm to ensure I meet these prerequisites. But again, if you're doing this locally, you just need to make sure you either have those versions, or you can honestly steal this and just use it, right? You can just totally use that. Okay. So going back to the questions about the database and such like that, and how that's working, and how are we generating the .env file? Notice when I started a brand new instance, I don't have a .env file, right? Now, what Cedric said is I could just do touch.env, right? I could say touch.env, and I'll create a .env file, but it's going to be blank. So what my goal is, in order to have my application, be able to use the values in my .env to talk to my database, I need some way to populate them. Now, I could do it manually. I think this is going to what Carrie was asking. If I go to my Astra UI, and if I am in my database, there's a couple different ways I can actually get like the region and stuff. So let's say I'm at my dashboard, and I go to I just click on that database, go to the detail page, like here. Well, one, I could copy the values. I could say, okay, I'm in this region. Here's the cluster ID. That's a little manual. That's not as nice. I could go to the Connect tab, and I could say, go to the REST API, and guess what? They're all provided for you right here. However, you still have to manually copy things, right? So here's what we've done for you. In the repo, if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, and this gets to a question that somebody was asking about that .env, you'll notice that after you start git pod, which is what I did here, we tell you, oh, run this command here, right? This npm exec astra setup. This is the database name. This is the key space name. What is it doing? Check this out. So I'm going to copy that in. I'll go ahead and I will run that. Yes. Now, this command, this astra setup, yeah, tell it okay, yes. It is actually going to then ask me, well, my key is probably stored. Let me see. My key is probably cached because Gitpod does that. Okay, no, it wants it. Good. Okay, good. So it's going to say, hey, give me your token, right? That's where that token comes into play yet again. That's why we say you're going to need it later. So you put your token in. Now, it's actually talking to Astra real time. It just using your token. It went in the backend API. There's actually a backend API. And it went and it said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a database called To-Dos Workshop DB, and I'm going to check for a key space. Well, guess what? I already had one, right? Because I followed the instructions earlier, and I created one. There it is. I created my To-Dos Workshop DB with a To-Dos key space. So all it's doing here, it's checking. And if it sees that it exists, it's just going to say, great, I have the information I need. And then it generates the .env for you. So if you notice, I now have a .env file. And it populated it automatically with all of my stuff. So where I could go get that region manually if I wanted to, I can use Astra Setup to do it for me. You can use this with your own apps. Astra Setup is a public library, right? It's not something that's just like for this repo. It's a really nice tool. So it does that part for you. Now, if my database wasn't there, it would have actually created it. So if I were to if I do this and I say the yay DB and my key space, yay key space, right? If those don't exist, then it's going to go, oh, look at that. It's going to say, hey, it's not there yet. Go make it. And if I come back into Astra, here, now I have a new yay database being created, right? So it will handle that for you. It's a really, like I said, it's a really nice tool. But then it'll take the values of that once it's done. It'll inject them into my .env file. And then that's what my application is going to use if we go back over to cases like looking at the Astra REST client. Oh, my bad. Where those values were coming into play. All of a sudden, I'm not finding it. There we go. Here. Oh. Oh, wait, there it is. There we go. Phew, I was having a hard time finding that. So that's where these values, this process.env, it's grabbing from my .env file the values that match these variable names, right? Those are the same names that you see here. So that's the answer there, is use the Astra, you use the Astra setup to generate the .env, connects to the database, does all the things. And then you can just move forward with your app. So hopefully they answered all those questions. I was trying to get a bunch at once. Oh, Nyan, the golden badge. How do you achieve it? You have to earn all 3 badges. I want a golden badge. Yeah, you have to earn
and it will be
badges, right, from each of the weeks of the series.
And it will be granted automatically.
Yes. All right, I'll stop talking for a minute.
No, I was reading the question only on YouTube, to be honest. So just catching up on Discord a bit.
Adarsh, yes, the video is recorded and it will be available at the same link on YouTube
Yes.
right after we're done. We also are doing this exact workshop tomorrow. If you want to watch it live again.
Yeah, and for anybody who's with us, and if you've come in late or if you've not done this before or whatever, even though throughout the repos, we try to provide like step-by-step instructions for everything and explain things, don't forget there's the slide deck in here. I'm going to paste this to one person. And if you missed that, you really want to take a look at the slides because they go together, right? The slides go along with the repo. The slides are going to give you, a lot of information, and then does that sometimes. And then the repo are usually the exercises based off of the information you're finding in the slides. So make sure you check those both out.
Raj asks a good question about helping understand the major difference between SQL and NoSQL databases. We have a workshop all about
We do.
that. We actually have a couple. We have Introduction to NoSQL, kind of gives an overview of what NoSQL is and how it differs from SQL. And then we did have a workshop moving from SQL to NoSQL, right? Didn't we do that once?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do have this one. Yeah.
I have both. Where is Raj? Is Raj in Discord or YouTube?
Yeah, so
YouTube.
Adarsh already get it. Yes, so now I need to change the question for tomorrow, or it will be there to win the swag. I see you, Adarsh. I see you.
Oh, which Raj for the links?
Let's see, Raj Godasara.
Okay, and you said in YouTube.
Yep,
Got
YouTube.
it. All right.
So we'll send you links. We have those workshops that you can watch. They're pre-recorded. But we do the introduction to NoSQL quite often, so we might have a live workshop coming up.
I just sent both links as well.
But very good question. Akash asks, "Is it just better to use Gitpod over VS Code?" Here's the thing.
I go first.
Here's my opinion. Gitpod is very useful, and it's useful for like if you are not at your main machine and you need to make some edits to the code real quick, or you are, find yourself on a low power machine, you can use Gitpod and it's in the cloud, right? It's super useful. Personally, a lot of times I like to work locally and I use VS Code. Essentially, they are the same. One is just in the cloud, the other is local. So I don't think you could really say one is better than the other. All right, those are my 2 cents.
Okay.
They don't have opinions.
Yeah. So I guess I'll put it like this. I usually code locally first, right? Because while I love Gitpod, and just to kind of second what Ryan said, Gitpod's actually really wonderful, especially for these kind of events. If we're doing these workshops, it gives us a way that we can very quickly control all the libraries, everything that are in there. Everybody gets like the same starting place, right? And so it's great for that. But there are some things, I guess, maybe it just being a kind of a cloud-based, web-based IDE that aren't always the best. Like for one, when I start up my VS Code, pretty much it starts instantly. I don't, now mind you, everything's running locally in my local machine and I have the resources for it. But when I start something like Gitpod, depending on the repository and depending on what you're loading, it might take a minute to load. And at times it gets a little loaded, but it's actually really nice in a lot of ways. I found though that, matter of fact, as we found last night, Ryan, that things don't always, like in the preview, you'll notice in Gitpod, there's a preview pane, right? So if I go ahead and, did I run all the things? Let me run all the things. I did, yeah, I just need these two. Yeah. So when you, and you can do this as well in like VS Code, but I found that when you go to start the app or a app, you can configure it to automatically generate and run in a preview pane, which is actually really cool. But the preview pane doesn't accept everything, right? It doesn't render everything identically in the way that you might expect it to sometimes. And you might be thrown for a loop. You might think there's something wrong in your code or something's going on when it's just something about the preview pane, right? So I would say I trust my local environment a little bit more from that standpoint. And here's the preview pane I'm talking about. In this case, it's fine. It's not doing anything bad. Oh, actually, I'm not connected to my database. That's interesting. I check that out. But yeah, I would. So it 6 half dozen one the other, I guess. Another thing that's actually nice about Gitpod is that you can share it with your coworkers. You can share workspaces. So if you have a saved workspace, then somebody else you can share them exactly what you're doing, and they'll be in the same place as you, as compared to local environments where, how many libraries do you install over the course of a year, and you might not really realize that you have some version of something somewhere that you haven't really remembered, where in Gitpod you're starting from scratch and building it up every time. So again,
yeah, I don't know. And it's still a web-based tool. You need to have this correct bandwidth to use it, and the responsiveness of the UI is not as good as the local environment to me. So,
yeah.
And I'm an old dude, so I'm still using Eclipse anyway. So.
Wow, Cedric. Actually, Eclipse is really cool too.
Yeah, I know the shortcuts so well, but to be honest, to do JavaScript, I do VS Code. Yeah.
There was a question somewhere.
So never worked on React. Regarding the website design. For the website design, we still reusing the famous libraries and template over there. Twitter Bootstrap or Tailwind, as you spotted. When we build some React components, we can reuse style from those frameworks. We just adapt the behavior of the component based on user interaction and have some properties to keep the state. But it's not really about web design. That's mostly about how to react on top of user interactions.
And the functionality.
I just like to point out that work says none of us look old, and I'll take it.
Yeah, filters. We all use filters.
That's why we're also shiny, right?
It's a little bit of a blur.
But yeah, I'm old.
All right.
For developer.
What do you think? What do you guys think? We want to see the dog. I have 2 greyhounds actually. They're ex-racers, both of them. What do you guys think about? Do we want to? I mean, I know I was kind of showing the rest to do app thing. Do we want to go further into that piece, or what are you asking? I'm going to ask the chats. As far as we're happy to. We've got about 15 more minutes. I'm happy to just do Q&A and stuff like that. But as far as the homework, do you want to see any of the steps or anything like that?
Yeah, and maybe I will have to sneak and drop a little bit sooner. So maybe it's time for me just to thank everybody to join, and hope to see you next week. If you like the content, consider to subscribe to the channel. We will be there every week, and this is that help us making the channel grow and still doing those sessions. And with that, I will sneak out.
All right, bye, Cedric.
Hey, Cedric. Let's see. Let's see if you Saurabh is saying screenshot thingy on the homework. Are you asking how to put in how to submit the homework? Yeah, honestly, Alex, I don't care what platform you use. Use whatever you want. It doesn't need to be Gitpod. It could be local. It could be whatever IDE you want. Yeah, submit however you want. See you, Paloko. Thank you, Abhishek.
I think it would be helpful to do that step 7.
Yeah,
it's pretty straightforward. I don't think it would take very long, but it would give them an overview on some of that, the env file and Astra setup and that kind of stuff. I know you talked a little bit through it.
Okay.
Ni-
Yeah, go ahead.
Niran, I'm going to send a link to our to the repo that it has the instructions for the React app part that we did, and that's how you can do the React app part of the homework. So I'll post it a couple times in the chat.
Yes, Nyan, we will be here tomorrow, same time, doing the same exact content, right? So to be very clear about that, it's the same workshop that we did today. But if you want to come back, that's totally up to you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see. I should probably share my screen again if you want me to do that.
Yep.
Boom. Darsh, it's not certificates, it's badges. So if you complete the homework, and for each one of these, then you can get a badge for it. And here to that, why don't we look at that real fast to show you how to submit it. And this is one of those things that's good to just start off at the beginning of the repo and kind of read through it. But you'll notice there is a homework section, right? In here, when the last thing, submit your homework here. When you open that link, that actually brings up an issue for you. This is where you put your homework, right? You just fill out the stuff, put your screenshots, and that's it, right? You submit that, then we get it, we get notified, we'll be taking a look at them. Yeah. Yes, we are still here, Salai. We're totally still here. All right, so let's see. Going back down to step 7 then. All right, so if we finish off the homework here, then the last thing we would do is open in Gitpod, right? This, by the way, this usually only works if you're in Chrome or Firefox, but since we don't need to copy a repo, it's a hard-coded link, you should be able to do this. If you're, I'm in Brave actually, in Safari, they should work. And when you do that, you'll see a link like this. It'll generate the app and everything. The first thing you want to do is you follow the instructions here. There's just a couple commands to run. Now we talked about the Aster setup a little bit earlier. I deleted my env files. So when you run this is actually going to go and attempt to create a database and a key space by specific name. Again, it uses your token. You're going to need your token. And then once that is done, successful or verifies that exists, it'll automatically create and populate your .env file. So I deleted my .env file. Notice I don't have it. So if I go ahead and I run this command, it's going to go ahead and go, oops, I hit enter too soon. My bad. I thought it wasn't going. Here we go. So it should look something like this, right? And it's going to say, hey, put your database admin token here. So I'm going to go ahead, grab my token. I'll paste it in. Now it's talking to the database. It found everything it needed. It found the database. It found the key space. So notice I now have a .env file that just appeared. It generated it, and it populated it full of the values I need to authenticate against my database. These values here, these variables, are going to be the ones that my application uses to talk. All right, so now I go to the next step. So this install the Netlify CLI, what is that about? We haven't really talked about Netlify today. And we're going to do more of that next week and the week after. So Netlify, Netlify is another platform. It's actually a service. If you take a look at netlify.com, you'll find them. They're awesome. They also have a free tier, which is really generous. Netlify allows you to push, generate static sites, you have serverless functions, all sorts of stuff. And not just push static sites, but push them over a global CDN. Like you can literally put your application up on Netlify, and it will become global completely on its own without you having to host web servers or anything like that, right? So it's wonderful from, especially from any application development, but like it's really meant for like Jamstack. We'll talk more about that next week. But I'm pointing it out now because you might like, well, what is this Netlify thing? Why do I have to install the CLI? And why am I saying Netlify dev? And what's going on here is because this application and the following applications that we're going to do in the coming weeks are all set up to use Netlify as a service, then you get some nice CLI, command line interface commands, like Netlify dev and some others, that then you can use to launch your app, to inject your environment into the service. You know, all like you can build. What's really cool is you're like building your app. Every time you push back to say master or main, it'll automatically deploy your new site, all sorts of things, right? So there's a lot of coolness that comes with it. You know, we just happen to use it here because you could actually take this to-do app and totally deploy it up to Netlify, right? But like I said, we're going to do that in the coming weeks with the other apps. So that's why the Netlify piece is here. But anyway, once you've done this last step, by the way, this is almost like npm run dev. It just tied in with the Netlify piece. So this is going to run my application development, and you can see I have that going on here. And there we go. So one thing to notice is when you do your REST, when you insert items to know this is working right, they should persist. Because every time you insert something, it's actually doing a read back from the database, right? If every time you go to do something here, it just ends up empty, that tells me it's not talking to the database, and you should probably see a bunch of like 400s or 404s here in your output. So this, I know that this is functioning properly. And if I want to go one step further, right, what I can do is I can come back to Astra. I can go to, which database am I using? To-dos. Which one did I use? Yeah, it's this one. So then I should, there's a bunch of different ways I could do this. Matter of fact, why don't we use Swagger? Yeah, let's just use Swagger. I would need the correct name, which is going to be to-dos. And, the table name. I think it's REST. Yeah, we call it REST there. That's right. Yeah, just REST. So I should theoretically be able to do this. And here they are, right? So notice, here are the items that I've put in. So I can see, I mean, like I said, I know that the interaction of this, I know it's working. I know it's talking to the database. But if I really, really, really want to see it, then I can go here into Swagger, and I can see there's more milk. If I want to do it another way, by the way, I could go into the CQL console, and I could actually just select this data right out. Now, this, what I'm doing here, isn't really in the instructions. I just happen to know how to do it. And there we go, right? So we can see the data is, clearly in the database. So that's this portion, all right? And then the final piece is, there's a final version of this. So notice the branch I'm in is main. This is fine, by the way, but we also have another branch called final. So if I check this out and say final. Now, when you do this, you do have to run a couple things. Matter of fact, what should happen is here. There is a README that's in here. Here we go. There we go. Why is it that? That's interesting. My README. No, that's really weird. I'm a little thrown by that, actually. Yeah, this is correct. What just happened here? What is going on? That's a new one. Do you see that?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Interesting. Yeah, so the actual README is here, though. So what I'm going to do is I'll just pop over here. That was bad. Yeah, I've never seen Gitpod do that one before. But if I go to final, okay, so you'll notice there is a specific README for the final branch. And if you copy these commands, right? By the way, this React scroll to bottom in the console feed, they're just what we're using for that console output. A screenshot of it is enough, Adarsh. Yeah, you don't have to upload it or deploy it. Yeah, screenshot's definitely enough. So I'm just going to follow the commands here. Now, something to point out, you might be wondering, why am I doing an npm install again? Didn't we already do that? Well, when I switched branches, I now have a different set of packages or libraries in my package.json, right? So the packages that are here are a little bit different because we have a little bit more going on in this version of the to-do app. So I do need to reinstall or install some of those. And that's what I'm doing with the Netlify piece. Yeah, Saroba, yeah, please do the screenshot. Hopefully yeah, it shouldn't take that long to spin up the GitHub and do it. Yeah, just make sure to take the screenshot at the end.
Yeah, we just need the screenshot of the final, not, you don't have to take screenshots throughout. And especially don't take screenshots of your key, of your token. Remember that. But yeah, the final should be fine.
Yeah, the final's fine. Yeah, the final's fine. All right, and then I'm going to do my Netlify dev again. And now this time, the app is still the to-do app. That hasn't changed, right? The difference, though, will be in the console. Yeah, so you're going to see this little console that shows up now, right? So if I kind of just get rid of this. So what the purpose of this is, it's actually going to more spell out what these REST endpoints look like. It's going to tell you what method they're using. It's also going to let you kind of dig into the objects, right? So you can start looking at the underlying objects as for the items themselves. And then it's also going to respond, like if I make an update, if I change some value, well, now I've just done an update. Oh, what kind of method is that? Here's the endpoint, right? What is the body that just got passed to it and such? So it's a way that you can use to kind of experiment and see what various things might look like. Same thing with the red X here. If I delete something, you'll see a delete. So it's got an example of each is what it comes down to. So that's really the piece with the console on it. That's in the final branch. It's just got this is this thing that scrolls and does the console output. That is that package I was talking about, a couple of the extra ones, this console feed. Console feed's actually really neat. This is kind of a neat little thing. It literally allows you to take the console log output and just spit it right out into your web front end. All right, so that's it as far as that piece goes. I know we've got 2 minutes left. Is there anything, Ryan, we should kind of finish off with?
I think that's pretty good. If there's any other questions last minute, you can answer. Otherwise, I think we've covered everything. I'm checking Discord, see if anyone has questions there. Stefano's in there.
Oh, one last thing we should point out. If we come back over to our main branch, we need to remove your branch. Yeah, I just noticed that. Yeah. So the MPX app, this thing that says need a refresher on React Basics, boom, that's here. So that's where the MPX app is. It's a different repo. It's a separate repo. You can just get back to the main by clicking on back to main, but you'll want to go to this repo, and this will allow you to do what Ryan did. So you can start completely from scratch, right, with nothing, and create a React app this way and build it up from there. I really suggest, especially if you're new to React, I really suggest taking a look at this. It kind of helps break it down and gives you that first experience. And then you can use this MPX Create React app to create your own, right? Matter of fact, To-Do app was created that way. I believe Netflix and TikTok were also created that way. And so it's a really nice command to use to get a React app going. Adarsh, the link, if you go to the repo, there is a homework section right there. And you'll see here, it says submit your homework here. That link will provide you what you need to submit your homework. And Abdul in Discord, the code part is in step 6. I'll give you the link. That open in Gitpod, this is where you're going to code. Go here. There you go. Yeah. Alrighty. I think that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this extra hour.
Yeah.
Hopefully we were able to answer all of your questions and give you a little bit of a head start on the homework. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys learned everything
absolutely
that you wanted to learn. And we will see you next week for the second part of this series, where we will do a TikTok clone and get into some document API stuff. So with that, we'll leave you and have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any questions, you need help, come reach out on Discord. We're totally there.
Yes.
And we are more than willing to help. And thank you, everybody, for sticking around. We'll see you next week. See ya.
All right. See ya.
And as always, don't forget to click that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notifications for all of our future upcoming workshops.
Imagine a being gifted with powers from the goddess of Cassandra, who grew those powers until she could multiply at will, move with limitless speed, and unmask hidden knowledge. With those powers, she was able to fully understand the connectedness of the world. What she saw was a world in need of understanding. From that day forward, she sought to bestow her powers on all who came into contact with her, empowering them to achieve wondrous feats.